Hi everyone, welcome to the Stage by Stage show live with me, Trevor New. I hope you've had a great week and I hope you enjoyed Rally Croatia last week. Absolutely fantastic result for the island of Ireland, with Fermanagh John Armstrong winning the junior round of the WRC, the very first opening round, with his new co-driver Phil Hall. Just a fantastic performance where he took a measured approach to it, built up the speed and was there at the end. Also, William Crichton and Liam Regan sent some fantastic times, again on their debut in the junior championship, and the first rally at such a senior level. It was great, especially the time that they did on the power stage at the end, so that was great. Also a bit further afield in the States with Josh McErlean and Keating Williams, who put in a brilliant performance in the Olympus Rally in the States. And of course, tonight's guest, Dave Whittock, his son Ross, was out with Chris Ingram last weekend, and they finished fifth on WRC 3. So lots of rallying last weekend. Starting to see now entries opening, and I saw a few bits and pieces on social media where entries are filling really quickly. So it's great to see that motorsport is actually coming back. It won't be too long to you'd be away on a Friday night and you not have to watch this. But in the meantime, we'll keep going with the Friday nights because a lot of you are still housebound. You can't get out to the pubs and things like that. So we'll keep going with the Friday nights for another few weeks and see how we end up. We've got some great guests lined up. A little bit fluid in where we can get them booked in. I'm always conscious of people's time and trying to work around them when it comes to this. So as usual, we're live across YouTube. We're live on Facebook and on Twitter. If you're on Facebook or on YouTube, feel free to drop us a few comments in just to let us know where you're listening from. And especially if you know our guest tonight, Dave Whittock, any prompts or any stories or any memories that you've got, I'm sure he'd be very happy to join in that. And again, who knows with this man, I definitely know it could be a 5-hour special, but we'll try and keep it to a sensible couple of hours. It's the usual thing. It just flies. It goes so quickly. But, you know, this man is a classic storyteller, someone I've known for a while, and it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to that, and we'll get him introduced in a second. So before I do that, though, I've got a little bit of housekeeping to do, and it's something that should have happened 2 weeks ago. If you remember back then, those of you who watch regularly, I wasn't able to put a show together because I ran out of time with being busy at work. But 2 weeks ago, I got a message from a guy, and he said, "Hi, my father, John McKinley, is a massive fan of the show, and his birthday happens to be this Friday." Now, we're talking about 2 weeks ago. And he said, "I wonder if you could say, happy birthday to John McKinley from your son Connor. Hopefully you can get back to rallying as opposed to just talking about it." We all want to do that. So thanks so much for reading. That was from Connor. So two things there. John, you've got a fantastic son. Connor, thanks very much for taking the time. It's a very thoughtful thing to do. I'm just sorry it didn't work out the way you'd planned for it. But we got the message there eventually. And speaking of birthdays, it was Mr. Whittock's birthday not so often. I had a birthday a couple of days ago as well, so it seems to be the theme that all that's happening. So tonight's guest, let's get to him. Just get the screen up. I've got a sticky trackpad. I've updated the software on my computer and it's lagging a little bit behind, so it's hard enough driving this machine without all of that. So Dave Whittock is co-driving for people like Tony Fowkes, for Juha and Terry Cabey. He's probably best known though for his time with Per Eklund, or Pekka, as he's regularly referred to. So their partnership lasted over 8 years, including world level, of course, British Championship and lots of events here, there and wherever. Several podiums, the highlight being second overall in the Swedish Rally in nothing less than a Lancia Delta Integrale in 1989. So after finishing the co-driving, he was at the forefront of Nissan's introduction to bringing the Sunny into the World Rally Championship, which led him leading Nissan Motorsports Europe, the rally program during the 90s. And during that period, of course, they won the British Rally Championship with both Alistair McRae in 95 and Mark Higgins in 97. After that then, team manager roles followed with David Sutton Motorsport, the highlight clearly being winning the 2003 World Rally Championship, clearly. He's still very much involved in motorsport. He's the chairman of Bath Motor Club. And as I said, his son Ross is co-driving Chris Ingram. They've got a 2-year WRC programme, and they finished fifth, as I said, on the opening round last weekend. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dave Whittock. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hi.
How's things?
Good introduction.
Yeah.
I'm bricking it at the moment, but it saved a lot of embarrassment. That was.
I could have went on for a lot longer because the amount of things that you've packed in over the career that you've had in motorsport is quite incredible. So we didn't even go to near the start of it, which we'll do. So we'll build your picture over a chronological period as to when you started out, that big break, I suppose, with Tony Fowkes, and then just how everything's developed. And it's always fascinating just to see how these opportunities come about as we go through it. So yeah. I'm really looking forward just to find out a bit about those. And again, for anybody watching this, or grassroots level motorsport people, then people like us, if we can do it, anybody can do it. It's fair to say, Dave.
I was just doing road rallies basically in the southwest, and but I was very much involved with Bath Motor Club. I've been a member there since 1969, 1970. I can't quite remember, but I was organising the festival rally then, and we were actually in we were in Triple C Championship at one point, and then we went to BT and RDA. And it was exactly the year after that Tony came third on RAC Rally, and I wrote to Tony. Of course, there was no emails then, so I wrote him a letter and said, "Would he like to come down and be course car?" And he came and he said, "I'd love to." Well, at the time, I think he was doing some development work for Mercedes, and I got a feeling it could have been for the Tour of Britain, which was, if you remember, it was off-road and racer.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it was Johnson Wax sponsorship. But of course, Jonathan Ashman, who was a man at RAC at one point, MSA. Yeah. Well, Jonathan used to work for Mercedes, and that's where the link was there. And so anyway, he came down. And of course, in those days, communication was pretty rubbish, really, on the rallies. And the clerk of the course normally went in the course car, and I went with Tony. And to be very honest, we had a great relationship, and that relationship grew until 76 REC. 76 REC. Tony said to me, "Could I organise the service for him and Brian Harris?"
Uh-huh.
We went to the prize giving, which was in the sports centre in Bath, and we came out, sat on the steps, and Brian said to me, "How would you like to co-drive for Tony a little bit?" And I said, I can't bring nothing to the party. I haven't got no money. And I didn't have anything. And he said, "Who's talking about money?" And I said, "Well, what are you saying?" He said, "I'd like you to do some rallies with Tony." He said, "I own a factory." He had a factory up in Maidenhead, and he used to make springs for aerosol. And he said, I'm really busy, and I'd like you to do a few with him." Of course, that's how it all started. Amazing. I went in at the deep end with Tony.
So that's the start of it. We'll get into all these stories in a little bit. We'll just have a quick scan here and see who's watching from where. So who have we got? We've got Sean McCarson from sunny Port Stewart in the Northampton coast. It's great. Dave Welford's here. I did have a good birthday, thanks, Dave. And Bob Irvine's there. He reckons you're a great guest. I definitely agree with him. It's going to be good fun tonight. So Drew Hull, have a great night, guys. Still working. He's going to catch up with it later. Plenty of opportunity to do that. If you don't get to watch it live, or if you come in halfway through, then it is it's recorded. So that's the thing. It'll come up. Pete Dowd says it's very hard to hear you, Dave. What's the rest of you? Is it just Pete, I wonder? Or just let me know what the sound quality's like, folks. Just give me some comments. So, and we'll keep an eye on that as we go through it. Right. So at the minute, Ross, your son, is out in Italy with Chris. Then they're on the on a round of the Italian Championship. Is that right, Dave?
No, he's in Portugal. It's the round of the.
Oh, sorry, it's Portugal. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just doing basically doing a small rally. Well, it's the first round of the Portuguese Championship, so they got competition.
Yeah.
and just really to get themselves bedded in for Portugal in a few weeks' time.
Excellent. So it's just a practice event, really, but they're doing quite well. We'll just see if I can get the results sheets up here from EWRC, folks. EWRC, it's that time of the year again. If you use this service, at all, please donate to this site. I just haven't got round to it. I'm going to do it over the weekend, but yeah, this is just a fantastic service. The guys were on Absolute Rally probably 6 months ago now, and it's just brilliant. So please help with that. So what we can see here is Chris Ingram and Ross Whittock were second on the second stage this afternoon, lying fifth overall. We can also see Josh McAlean there with Noel Sullivan alongside this weekend in ninth. So that's not a bad start then. You'd be happy with that, yeah?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's the first time they've driven this car on gravel, and I suppose really it's the first time Chris have driven on gravel for 18 months, nearly 2 years now. So, well, what was that? November 2019 was the last time, he drove on gravel. So, I'm pleased they got the deal this time. And, now they got to show what they can do.
Got you. So Bobby Willis reckons that Pete Dowds is getting old and hard to hear, and it's all good on his machine anyway.
Oh, that's good.
Somebody else says they can hear okay. Dave's volume seems a lot lower. It will be lower because I've got this boom mic in front of me, so that's okay. Your voice is much louder than Dave's. Looking forward to this evening. Okay, so I'll move away a little bit and we'll sort it that way then. Okay, cool. We're good to go anyway. So, this interest in motorsport, where did a lot happen then initially?
Sorry, my interest in motorsport. My interest in motorsport started when I had a job with a company in Bath, and it was an Austin Morris dealership, and I used to work in the parts department. And when they started me to work on a Saturday, Saturdays were just full up. They used to queue up outside, and all these guys were from local motor clubs, and they all had their Mini Cooper S's and whatever, and they were all going off Saturday evening to do a rally. And I thought, this sounds a lot of fun. And I had a good mate of mine who was at school. I was at school with Pete Gould, and we decided to. And he was a farmer, and his father had put him into the farm on his own. And Pete had a Cortina GT with a tow bar, ultra grips, a pair of spotlights, and seat belts, and there was nothing else in that car. And he used to tow all the sheep, to market on a Wednesday and everything else. So we started doing some 12 cars together, and then we started to do some road rallies. And Pete thought this wasn't quite as good as it should be because, if we used to stick it in the bank on a 12 car on a Wednesday, go in the market on a Thursday, we would share it. So, so he bought an Escort, and when I look back, I've been with drivers that if I knew them today, if I could turn that clock back, they should be pushed into doing something, because he was one of those guys that would drive flat out everywhere. And I think I might have only finished a couple rallies with him in the Escort, because every time there was an accident. I mean, I remember doing the Swindon Phoenix Motor Club rally one time with Pete. And we were going into the afternoon. We've done about 6 stages. And of course, they used to use a bit of Salisbury Plain and everything. And I think we were leading the rally. And leading the rally, well, we didn't understand that. We just thought we were just going a bit quicker than everybody else. And we were coming around this right-hander, and it swiped the bank. But it was okay. I mean, it straightened up. And about 50 meters down the road, the old car started going pop, 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 pop. And I said, "What's up, Pete?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "It sounds like we've run out of petrol." I said, "Did you put some bloody petrol in this car?" "Of course I did," he said. So we stopped, and we ran straight round the front of the car, pulled the pipe off. Went round, turned the key, nothing coming out of the pipe. I said, "There's nothing coming out of the pipe, Pete. You bloody forgot to put the petrol in." Anyway, we walked around the back towards the tank. There wasn't a back on the car. The bloody tank and the whole rear of the car had gone. And the bloody axle was hanging out. And I said, well, this is the reason. We did run out of petrol. But he was that sort of guy. I mean, he was a fantastic driver. And, every time we used to leave to go on a rally, I always used to have to help and muck out and things like this with the cows because, the farm came first.
Uh-huh.
But he was good. And of course, my interest was there from word go. Then my interest was 100% on the rallies. And
so back then, though, the Lombard RSC Rally was the biggest spectator event in the whole of Britain. Is that an event that you used to go to, for example? Because Bath was synonymous with it, wasn't it?
I mean, my first RAC I saw was 1965 through Kingswood Warren, which is no longer available and it's no longer Forestry Commission now. But I remember seeing Timo Mäkinen come through there in a Healy 3000. And, just the sound of those cars, I mean, it was just unbelievable. And, and I had to wait then for another 12 years before I think it was 77. I think 77 was the first time I did my RAC rally. And, it was magic from day one. And, I wanted to always get there, but how do you? It's all relative, I think, because today people can't go rallying to the level they want to go because they haven't got the money. But it was no different for us.
Yeah.
I went rallying because I used to actually pick out of these drivers who wanted me for me rather than wanted me because they wanted money from me, and I was very lucky. I was extremely lucky. Around the time when Pete started to find farming a little bit heavy and backed off, I went with another farmer, Bob Withers, and a mini clubman, and we did Triple C and BT and RDA championship. We did the BT and RDA with a 1293 and 8-port head, and we did the Triple C with a 1000cc 970 Screamer, and we had some great results on that. I mean, the first rally we ever done, I think, was a Welsh. And we were third in class in that car, and I loved it. But Bob was he was a wealthy farmer, but he never kept asking me either. He never asked me for money, and I don't know if you can remember back in the days of Del Lines and Ian Giles with the TR8s and all this.
Oh yeah.
Well, Ian Giles, he actually had a company then called Mini Bits, and he used to sponsor us, and we had a lot of fun. I remember, those were the days when I think it was, not so serious. I can remember going to the Lancia Pointer Rally, which was up in Norfolk. And of course, there was no M25 or motorway. Yeah. And we went up through Watford, and I remember calling in the pub in Watford for lunch. And we spent for the next 4 hours in the back room there because they had a strip show going. And so we were a bit late at Scrutineering, but we enjoyed the afternoon out.
So at what point then did you think that you could move up in the world when it comes to this co-driving like this navigating the point? So you were a map man back then as well, because that's part of it. You got the gigs on Lombard RSC because you could read maps in those days as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was that. Well, basically, I mean, Tony. When I was with Tony, I started to feel that maybe I could move up one, because Tony was one of these guys that could motivate you and he could make you feel good. And if you did something right, there was no question. Tony used to always make sure that you understood that you've done it right and you've done a good job. He was brilliant, and he gave me so much confidence. And he always said to me, because he used to call me Davy Boy, and he said, Davy Boy, you can always, go forward. You can do better than this. And after we had the big bang. We had a really big bang on Epping, Tony and myself, and then we did a few rallies afterwards. But the big bang.
That is a scary looking crash.
That accident still carries a few scars now, and it's that accident was enormous. I think it was stage 4, and it was coming up the steps into Dixie's, and everybody will know that who knows Epping. And when we beat the bogey every time up to that point, and we knew we were fighting with Frank Pearson and Arthur Brick, and they were also beating the bogey. We knew that we had to do something, and Tony said to me, "I'm sure, Dave, coming up those steps, it's absolutely flat." I said, of course, Tony was the king of Epping then, and I said, "If it's flat, Tony, it's flat." But it wasn't flat. We got on the grass, and it hit a bridge parapet. It hit, a concrete parapet there, and it went over. Well, some people say it went over nose to tail about 9 times. And I can remember it like it was yesterday, that, it all went quiet, and then you had a big bang, and then it all went quiet, and you had another big bang. I was trapped in the car, and I had to get ripped out of that car eventually because there was smoke coming from the rear, and, it could have went on fire. Tony come out just with a broken nose. I came out, and I had my finger, he was hanging off. I had a really, really big gash, about 6 inches long in my leg, and which is never, healed perfectly. But I also, after that rally, I had a problem with my ear about a week after I was going deaf. And of course, I went to the doctor, and they cleaned my ears out and said, your ears were a bit dirty. And I said, "Oh, right, okay." And well, within another week, I went more or less totally deaf in my left ear. And well, they took me in, they did what they had to, and they told me I had a cracked cochlea. So I cracked my cochlea on that accident. That was okay until about 4 years ago, and then I seem to have got Meniere's disease, which is something which is all about vertigo, and it burns itself out. And touch wood, I think it's burnt itself out now, because I've been good since last August. But that Meniere's disease, it's in this ear, and the possibility it all was caused by that damage, because it's not 100% that it's caused by the damage, but the consultants think that it helped. the damage helped it.
So, I'm surprised. The way you described it, like it's clearly concussion of some sort as well. You'd have thought of that. Yeah,
well, you thought so. I mean, I can remember the accident. I can remember all of it, and I can remember everything at the end. But it took a long time for them to get me out. And Tony and I waited there, and of course we were all covered in blood and horrible. And the only thing they had available to take us to the hospital down in Brecon was a Series 1 Land Rover. So they stuck us in the back there, and we let out in this Land Rover, and it was jumping up and down, as you can imagine. And we went in the Brecon hospital, and they took us in through the doors, and these slabs where they put dead people, well, they put us on there. And I said to Tony, we're not going to die, mate. He said, "Oh, no." And I said, "But I wonder how long we got to wait." Well, we waited there over an hour. I mean, the blood from my finger, was just dried up into a heap. And, I thought, I don't know what's going to happen. Well, eventually they came to us and said, well, because it's a bank holiday, because it was Easter bank holiday, because it's a bank holiday, then the doctor, he's not available. So we'll find you another ambulance and take you to, I think they took us to Aberystwyth. And that's what happened. So they stitched us all up and sent us all home. And but it was a big job, a huge bang.
How long was it before you got back in the car then after that?
Well, I was back in the car in just under 3 months, I reckon. I got back in the car with Chris McAuliffe. He was a young guy that Tony was trying to bring up. He lived in Paddington in London, and he was an Arthur Daly. But he was a lovely bloke. He was only a young guy. He was only about mid-20s, but he was a lovely bloke. You couldn't help but like him, But he bloody sell ice to an Eskimo, He was that sort of guy. But yeah, I got back in with Tony and in with Chris, and as soon as I'd done the first stage, it was
No second thoughts. You're back up again.
I was back to where I started.
Okay. So then, if we fast forward through that year, then to Rally Lombard RSC, then so you got an offer. What's the story behind that? Because you ended up doing it in the Saab, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Well, in between all these walls, there was a guy in Bath Motor Club called John Hill. John's no longer with us, and he was our sort of club PR and PR man, really, and he was quite good at it, if I remember. But John was a good friend with Henry Liddon. Of course, Henry used to live over in Hanham in Bristol, so he wasn't that far away. So,
just for those people who don't know who Henry Liddon is, just describe.
Henry he was a legend. I mean, when you start talking about old co-drivers, there was Henry Liddon, there was Paul Easter. Of that era, there was David Stone. There was Tony Nash, Tony Ambrose, and they were the bee's knees. Without question, I think Henry was the best, and he's sort of more or less gone into retirement and gone into team coordination with Toyota at that point, but he hadn't actually fully given up. But John thought it was a good idea, because I got on well with John. John thought it was a good idea that I should meet Henry. And of course, I kept saying to him, I want to talk to this guy. And Henry he invited me over to his house. And I remember pulling up outside of his house, and it had a 40-meter gravel drive. And his wife's car, Joyce's car, was a VW Beetle. And there was this bloke doing wheelies up the bloody drive. And I thought, this Henry Liddon must be a bloody bit of a, Anyway, it was Timo Mäkinen. So Timo used to spend a lot of time. So I met Timo at that point, and he was a lovely bloke. I mean, yes, he'd like a drink, but he was a lovely bloke. And from that point on, I used to, every time Henry came home on the weekend, he used to always let me know he was coming home, and I used to go over and see him on a Sunday morning. We used to sit in this sort of 10-foot by 10-foot room, and it was full of all these silver tulips and that he'd won in the past, and and the stories that came out of him was just unbelievable. I can remember him telling me the story that he was, I think it was with Uwe. He was doing an Acropolis with Uwe, and they
Uwe Anderson that we're talking about here, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they finished the recce, and they were all having a chat. And he said, I was tidying up the notes on the roof, and he said, and we all decided to leave, and we left. And he said, and the notes flew off and went down the bloody mountain, and they couldn't find them. And they just done the whole recce. And he told me many stories that, especially about World Cup and all the rest of it. And it was just unbelievable.
Well, the Safari stories alone for Henry Liddon, towards the end, just Safari alone, that man could tell stories for months.
Oh, absolutely. Henry took me under his wing a little bit. Henry said, of course, he used to know what went. He knew what went on in the Southwest. He knew what I was doing. He knew, he knew more than you thought, really. And he wanted to take somebody under his wing, and he took me. And the first indication I had of that was, I'm just trying to think of the team manager's name then of Saab. But he phoned me up. He got hold of me. And he said, would you do the RAC Rally? This was 1979. And I said, yeah, who with? And he said, Ola Stromberg.
Was it 79 or 77? 77, maybe.
77, sorry.
Yeah,
77.
that's okay, yeah.
London one, wasn't it? That's right.
Yeah.
And he said, would you do it? And I said, of course. I said, who should I do it with? And he said, well, Ola Stromberg. He said, he said, you'll be starting 99 because it's in a 99 and it's a publicity car. But he said, your row, I will explain to you your row when I meet you in London. So when we got there, our row was very clear, absolutely very clear. You actually drive the rally to finish. And if you see Stig or Per, which was the two main team, if you see them parked on the side of the road, you stop. If they need parts, they take them from your car. Okay, no problem. Ola didn't have the same thoughts as that.
There's a surprise.
He didn't have those thoughts at all. I remember, I know we did Blenheim Palace, and we were quick in there. We did Towcester, which was Towcester Racecourse around the back of there. And then we went up to Sutton Park. And I know when we approached Sutton Park, we were certainly in that 5-6 overall by then. And I thought, this is never going to last. And so I remember sitting at the start of Sutton Park, and I said, I can help you so much in here, but I would warn you when we get to this certain bend, which is known as Brooks's Bend. I said, because it's quite deceptive. And I said, but, you must be careful, but I'll warn you. So we were approaching Brooks's Bend, and I warned him, and we were going 30 mile an hour too quick. No question. And of course, we slid out, hit the tree, and then, we were flying through the air. And
instead of being 99, you became number 66, didn't you?
In 66, yeah. You see, for the people who's observing, you could see the oil falling out the front and the petrol out the back. But the jackets in the back is still upright. You see this?
That's good.
Yeah, no.
Well packed.
It was a beautiful car as well. But it was a bit of a mess after that. And I can remember, reporting the accident, and they said, how bad is it? And I said, really bad. And he said, okay, we'll send a lorry. And we started in York that year. And said, we'll send a lorry to you. And I thought, okay, they seemed to be taking it okay. So the lorry, and it was just a cab with 2 seats in and on the back. And we said, we get back up in the cab with you, driver? No, he said, we've had proper instructions. If you want to go to York, you have to sit in the car. So we sat back in the car, and it pissed down with rain from start to finish. And, we were in one hell of a mess when we got there because we were frozen. And it was our penance. And we had a sponsor, or they had a sponsor that year, which did all the clothing, a guy called Kai Mericanto. And the clothing was from a company called Happy Time. And Kai was a typical Finn, a full fun Finn he was. And we went to the nightclub that night, to thaw out actually. And I can remember very well by 12 o'clock at night in this nightclub. And Kai, he was in his underpants, still with his camera around his neck, dancing on the floor. He didn't have nothing else on. He was way gone. We had a whale of a time, but I tell you what, the rollicking we had. In actual fact, I think I was with Pecker 2 or 3 years, and he said, Whittock, can you remember Kai Mericanto? And I said, yes. He said, you remember this RAC rally? He said, I promise you. He said, if the boss man could have got hold of you two, he said
there weren't many parts salvageable, I reckon, from that car when it eventually came to.
We were doing 80 mile an hour there, where you see it upside down.
But that was 77 as well. So that was the second big accident that you had in that year. Then.
Yeah.
Did that get you worried?
No, not at all. No, because I still have more to come. No, it didn't. It didn't worry me at all. It was, I just took it as, this is what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe I was a bit naive, but, back then before pace notes, I mean, accidents were, they used to come very quickly. And, because you can be quite accurate on reading the maps, but it's like a road rally, isn't it? People that go road rallying today, I mean, a good navigator can do a good job for him, but you only have to be slightly out on one corner, and if you're 100% believe in him, you're gone.
Yeah.
In the bank. So that was a bit of a break, and that was all set up really by Henry, and Henry set me up with other stuff after that, and well,
why do you think he chose you? Why did he take you under his wing, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I was doing a lot in motorsport then. I was organising events, and I was organising good events at the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was well liked in the club, and and I was doing quite a lot in the club at the time. But my competing levels then, if one driver dropped out, I mean, I would be with another one, and and I was lucky enough to pick drivers that could get half decent results, but I was a trier, and I think
All I'm trying to do here, Dave, is just for those people watching, just put themselves in better positions to be able to spot opportunities and do something with them. I was just wondering if there's anything in particular that would be useful advice.
I think, well, you must never give up. I mean, that's number one thing. You never give up. If you want to do something, I think certainly if you want to get in the motorsport and you're not in there, I think it's a great opportunity now, because there's a lot of grassroots motorsport which is not costing a lot of money for anybody, whether you're a driver or a navigator, and I think it's a great opportunity to get out there and do something. But and then you'll find how what you're good at, because I went into navigating because initially I couldn't afford to go driving, but I knew also that I had a great love for maps. I mean, I know when I was with Per, he recognized my love for maps, because he used to say, "You bloody live in maps." He said, "You only read maps. You don't never read nothing else, only bloody maps." and and I know when we got married, he actually gave us a lovely picture of a 1700 or 1600 map of the southwest of England, and he had it framed for us, and it's still in the hallway now on the wall. But he recognized immediately that maps was my thing, and I think it always was from the beginning. And I mean, if I thought I could bring something to the team by using that skill, I wished I'd have done more motor and news rallies. I mean, I organised the festival rally for three years, I think it was, in motor and news, and I mean, it was a road race. I mean,
for those people who don't know anything about a motor and news round, like a couple of 100 miles, was it?
Yeah,
on a Saturday night.
220, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
20 on a Saturday night. Start at 11 o'clock and finish at 4, and it was just absolutely great. And back in the days when I organised them in mid 80s, that was, you had Gwyndaf Evans, Endaf's Alfin's father.
Yeah.
And his uncle used to navigate for him. You had the great boys of Mick Bryant. You had Ronnie Beecroft, Mike Patterson, Dennis Gwynn,
Yeah, you're talking about the drivers here. It's the co-drivers, the navigators. So you're talking about Millie, you're talking about...
Yeah, I mean...
John Millington.
Millie, I mean, and, Ian Grinrod as well. I mean, Ian did quite a lot with Cyril Bolton. And, of course, I used to take particular interest in Cyril because he had a Mini, and I was a Mini fan. Mm-hmm. And, and I always rated, when I was competing against Per, Ian, without question, to me, Ian was the best. On road rallies, I used to think people like Millie and Mike Kidd as well. He was
Mike Kidd's good, yeah.
Mike Kidd was, I think Mike was very good, and those people, and of course, I mean, I used to look up to them really, and I used to feel like if I can put myself on the same level as them, I'm actually doing all right.
It's quite interesting as well because I did a podcast with Fred Gallagher a few months back, and Fred, of course, had the same heroes as you, John Davenport, Henry Liddon, and of course him and Terry Harriman were as exactly as you described it with the map side of things. Quite coincidentally, about the same time you sort of met Juha Kankkonen. You did a rally before Fred got involved with Juha. But isn't it funny the parallels here when it comes to the map reading side of things and the love of maps?
It is. I mean, when I got tied up with Juha, that was again with Henry. I mean, Henry invited me to go over on Ivory Coast in '83 and go in the airplane with him. And so, I went over and I was planning to sit up in the airplane and help run the rally with Henry. He said to me 3 days before the rally, this is 3 days, he said, Dave, the organizer's been up to see me. They haven't got enough taxis to make the minimum number of 50 cars up. And I said, come again, Henry. He said, well, they have to run a certain number of cars to become world championship. He said, but of course, there's only about 25 here, so they make them up with taxis. And I said, but the taxis don't do the rally. No, he said, they go over the ramp and retire. He said, so we've got an opportunity to put a recce car in. And he said, and I'm flying over a young Finn that's never been out of Finland yet. And he said, and I think he's got a lot of potential. And I'd like you to do the rally with him. I said, okay, does he speak English? Nobody will do when it's finished, he said. So you had turned up with 3 or 4 words of English. And Juha was so bloody fit, I couldn't believe it. We used to walk out of the hotel. And it was so, the humidity was so heavy that we used to be just wringing wet by the time we got to the car park. And I think the workshop was something like about 4 or 5 kilometres away.
Isn't it a good job? You'd done all that jogging and all the cycling and all the fitness and work in the gym that you were able to keep up on, man, eh?
I used to normally cycle, around that time, I used to cycle when I was home about 10 miles a week, 10 miles a day.
Yeah.
And I used to always, I used to go running for a couple of miles and things like this. But other than that, I mean, I was fit and I wasn't very heavy either. I mean, I was about 9 stone and 9 stone 2, something like that. I wasn't very heavy. And, but, Juha, he used to come out of the hotel and he used to run to the workshop. And you hardly seen him sweat. And I mean, we were sweating, doing nothing. And, he was fit. But anyway, we were given a recce car to do Ivory Coast. And Henry said, you have a word with the drivers, which was, of course, that was Per. And of course, that was also, where are you gone?
Go on.
Okay.
Can hear you. Yeah, I was just showing the footage.
And of course, that was also Bjorn was there. So
yeah, they're all there. That was the team, wasn't it? That
was the team. So anyway, he said, I went to Per because Ragnar Spute was, he was a good guy, and and at that point in time, I knew I was going to go with Per. I said to Ragnar, could I borrow your notes? And he said, yeah, but of course they were all in Swedish. So eventually, I sat down after having a lesson of turning all these Swedish notes into English, and then sitting down with Juha, and we went through them, and that's how we did the rally. And again, he was bloody fast, but we had a big off in the end. I mean, we hit this railway line at such a speed that the car totaled basically. And Trevor.
Yeah.
I'm on a different screen altogether now. What have you done to me?
I haven't done anything. You talk away. I can see you. We can all see you. Okay.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah. So we had this massive accident on this railway line, and we landed, and I got on the radio to Henry, who was up in the plane, and told him what had happened. And he said, well, there was no need of that. You know, Henry was a gentleman. He said, there was no need to have a big accident. And I said, no, but we've had one. And he said, well, you have to stay there until tomorrow. He said, because I can't get one of the service barges there until tomorrow for you. So we slept in this bloody car in the middle of the bush. And, you know, it was, well, we woke up in the morning and I can remember there was spiders on my legs and they were as big as, you know, saucers. And there was everything crawling about that car. And yeah, it was, you know, it was quite bonding between Juha and me, I must say.
It would have to have been.
But that was that was also, you know, there was also a time on that rally when we were on a, you know, a competitive road section, but there was a roundabout because we were going through a village, and I said to him about going straight over roundabout, and you know, we went straight over the roundabout, okay, and he just put it in the fifth, and he did literally go straight over this bloody roundabout. And you know, when Juha wrote his book, he actually made quite a story of that because you know, he did exactly what I told him to do. It was as simple as that, really.
If only all drivers did the same, Dave, eh?
Yeah, wouldn't it be? Yeah. Now I can't see you at all at the moment, and I can't see anything. All I've got is I've got my wallpaper, which is my Mini. That's
okay.
All. So I think you've unplugged me somewhere.
I haven't. We'll take you out and we'll bring you back in again. You'll see.
Okay. But
is that any better?
No. I'm still.
Something's happened on your screen. It's gone to sleep probably. So if you waken your screen up, yeah. The screensaver's probably come on.
All right. Let me have a look.
So you do that, and I'll come back to you in a second. And we'll just see any other comments. So road rallying is a great way into intro into the sport. Dave, do you think the speeds are getting too fast? Yeah, it definitely was too fast. There's no doubt about it. Fergal's here, Noel's here, Big Mick, Mike's from Donegal. That's good. Thanks, Rodney. Dave's computer might be going to sleep. There we go. Definitely. I think there's something there's going on with it. Let's see if he's got it sussed yet. Yeah. Is that any better?
Yeah, we were there. Yeah, we're there.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't like talking to myself. I'm not a radio man, you see.
Definitely one of the best communicators I ever met in rallying. So, and how to build relationships and look after people, you are the man for that. So we need you to be able to see people. So there's a bit of a jump there. So we just need to go back to meeting Pekka for the first time and the story around rally, well, RSE rally again, which was...
Yeah. I mean, Henry, again, Henry said to me, would you help out on RSE rally, Dave? And I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, look, I want somebody to do all the maps. Well, I didn't realize how many bloody maps they wanted doing. But it was an enormous amount of sets, 20 sets of maps or something. And I remember I had an association with a company in Bath then that used to sell the maps. And I went in there and told him the number of maps I wanted. And he said, I've never bought this in 3 years. And, you know, I mean, it was a massive number. And I had to sit down and mark all these. Anyway, when I did this, Henry said, the only job I got for you on the rally, he said, is navigating the motorhome. And I think he was testing me. And he said, how does that sound? And I said, I don't mind. I said, I'll do anything. I said, I just want to be around your team. I just want to see what happens. We arrived on the rally and basically we were the night before and Henry said to me, look, I've got somebody in the other room I need to introduce to you. And I went in with Henry and Uwe was sat there, Uwe Anderson. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I said, Uwe, it's a great pleasure to meet you. I said, you know, you're a hero. And he said, well, he said, we'll get to know each other, he said, over the next few days. And I said, yeah, I'm sure. He said, oh, we will, he said, because you're with me. And I said, I'm actually in the car with you. Yes. He said, and I said, so what do you like to do on the rally? I want to go everywhere, he said. Possible every start, every finish. I said, okay. I said, but sometimes we have to hurry. Yes, I can drive, he said. If you can navigate, I can drive. And we had a great time. And we came back and we got back into the finish. And he said to me, you know, you should utilize what you know best. He said, and that's reading maps. He said, you're fantastic. He said, I think you did a great job. And he said, I hope you can progress with it and I'll help you.
Okay. So before you go any further, just for people, again, context here, Dave, sorry to interrupt your story, but Uwe Anderson and the reason that he was a legend and a hero and why you were so excited to meet him, just explain that to people.
Well, I mean, there wasn't much that Uwe didn't win, really, in rallying. I mean, he was really a number one Swede, I suppose, until people like Stig came along. He was just an incredible driver. You know, people like Hannu Mikkola and Stig Blomqvist, these guys, they actually, they came after him. They all looked up to him. He was a brilliant guy, brilliant driver, and then he went on to manage not only Team Toyota Europe, but he then went on to manage Toyota Formula One as well. And the man was absolutely fantastic. And the sad thing about it is that I think he went off to South Africa and retired and whatever. And in a normal road accident, he got bloody killed. And so sad because a guy like that today. I mean, all right, I mean, he'd be an old man now, aren't we all?
Yeah.
But, I mean, he would have been. He would have had so many great stories. But the same with Henry. I mean, Henry met his death as well. And yeah, I feel quite sad about it because those guys, without those guys, I wouldn't have had the opportunities to do
what did both of those guys, so Uwe and Henry, what did they teach you? What did you learn from them?
They taught me to always follow my dream, and every job you do it properly. A bit of attention to detail, but also never give up. And I was very lucky because when I went with Per had this attitude of never give up. If Per had one wheel if he had one wheel on the car and he had one cylinder working, we'd still be going. There is no question about it. The retirement was not a question unless everything was finished. So I've been lucky, really, from Henry, from Uwe, even from Tony Fowkes. He was another one. They were never give up, and I believe that that's where they've given me a good work ethic, and they've also given me this ability to push forward. No matter what's falling apart around you, just push it forward and follow your dream. And that's exactly what I'm doing now with Ross.
And there's always a solution. There's always a solution, isn't there? There's always a way of doing it.
There's always a solution.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we get a bit later, I'll tell you a solution we found on Recce and Safari, and it was, it's mind blowing, but it's good.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so they were very proud, and they did me proud, and and eventually they introduced me to Per.
Right, and the whole idea was to start the British Championship with Per, I think, in 1982. Would that have been right, roughly?
That's right. Yeah. Of course, Per then already had a contract to do some World Championship events with Ragnar Spute.
Yeah.
And fair play to Ragnar. I mean, he became a very good friend of mine, and he still is. And I took his seat, really. I took his seat, and eventually I took all the events away from him then.
Yeah.
It was going to be, I think, the last year that Per had a Team Toyota Europe seat.
Mm-hmm.
But UK was definitely keen to get in on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
UK was run by a guy called Mike Copeland, and Mike was an absolutely great guy. And Steve Johnson, he managed it. David Jules was team manager.
Yeah.
And and they got on well together. I could see there was a good relationship between Per and David, and David, he was a half decent driver himself,
Mhm.
so he understood. But from the day that first Corolla came out of the box,
Yeah. Wasn't it Celica first though?
yeah,
The second round. So this is the car. This is a replica of the car. I don't know. This is a photograph that's been taken at the Goodwood Festival Speed at the rally sprint stage.
yeah,
So this was the car I reckon you did 1982 circuit, and that was the first time that you co-drove.
yeah. I think we did circuit. We did. I reckon we did Welsh, and we did Ulster. I think with that car.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Ulster was the first time that it was a pace rally. So that was the first. Ulster was the first event that Per and I did pace notes together. And I remember sitting in the hotel, the night before, and I said, "What are we going to do, Per?" He said, "Oh, can you speak Swedish?" And I said, only with a southwestern accent. And he said, "No," he said, let's try this, And he was, giving me all these symbols in Swedish. And of course, I was trying to speak, and he said, "I can't bloody understand you." He said, so what are we going to do? And he said, "Well," he said, "we have to make a set going, David." He said, "We have to try and make something going." And I said, "So what do you understand?" And he said, of course, that we didn't use numbers then. We were generic. We were medium, fast, and all.
Yeah, descriptive. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, "What we can do," he said, I understand fast, and I understand medium, because medium is medium even in Swedish." He said, "But it's like this 60-degree corner. This K." He said, K is no problem. K is not a problem for me." He said, "But we also have variations each side." And I said, "Well, how about plus and minus? Hey, we can try this." But then, it was a square corner. And I said, so, we went through all the termination of what can we use? What terms can we use for a square corner? We didn't want to use a 90 or something, because it messed it up with the distances.
Yeah.
In a square, he couldn't get his head round. And I said, well, eventually we came up with the word bad. So bad was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you could emphasize it. He liked that. He thought that was great. So off we started with this. We had a hairpin, open hairpin. And then, as we were going through Ulster, we were changing the notes slightly. So we were actually adding things in a little bit. And it started to work quite well. And we were second that year on Ulster. I think Bertie Fisher and Austin McKell, I think they were there. They won, and we were second. So we were quite pleased. But it was so funny with Per, because, of course, in the beginning, I was learning all these things and from him, and he was just full. He was full of, everything that was going on, and I had a whale of a time. We were in Ireland doing the recce for Ulster, and coming down to this T-junction, and I looked to the left, and this farmer coming down with an A55 pickup. And of course, Per was just about to shoot out, because we had to go off to the right, and it was like a fast right as well, like a medium right on the junction. And he was just about to shoot out, and I shouted at Per, and I said, "Whoa!" And of course, Pecker still kept going. And the A55 come down and rode up the hedge and dropped half on his side, just enough to drive out again. And I said, no, stop. So I went back to the farmer, and the farmer was all right, a bit shook up. So I got in the Pecker. I said, "Pecker," I said, "what? I shouted to you." He said, "You shouted woo." He said, "I only shout woo to bloody horses. I'm not to my friend." So he didn't stop. We had a great time together. Anyway,
Yeah.
Great bloke.
It's like 8 years, as I said. That was the start of that relationship, which was quite incredible. 5 podiums in the WRC, including that second overall in Sweden. So, What in particular? The one I remember. It's just in my head. It's a Scottish rally where the wheel came off the Celica, and got spectators helped to tighten it on. It was on the TV on the Barry Hinchcliffe report,
Yeah.
and the spectators tightening the wheel, and he whistles. He whistles and okay, I tighten. Gets the wheel brace in. The wheel comes off 100 meters down the road.
You see, but he would let people get involved, and he would he could motivate even spectators. He could motivate anybody around him, and but the problem was with Per. His English was pretty broad Swedish, like it's just like a southwestern accent for me, but in Swedish, and I mean, and he used to have certain words that he used to just say all the time, and we don't want to repeat that on the screen. But that was his normal. It was his normal everyday language, and people loved him for what he was. And I can remember coming into Dolby, and this must have been this was in the Celica. I got a feeling this was 83 REC.
Okay.
Well, the wiper motor were playing up. Well, the wipers were actually playing up. They weren't working properly. And I can remember him coming into the service area. And as we didn't have long, I stayed in the car. And I remember Packer outside going, "Can somebody bloody look at this whipper engine?" And of course, they all kept looking at Packer. "Look, the bloody whipper engine is not working." So, and of course, I'm thinking, and I said, "Per, what do you mean by whipper engine?" He said, "Bloody whipper engine, Whittock." I said, "You mean the wiper? The bloody wiper engine." So, of course, I told the boys, "Have a look at the wiper motor," and they killed it within minutes. But everybody was looking at him for this whipper engine. But he used to come out with all these things. It was like he could never say McCunliffe; he would say McNewlet, and unless you knew what he was talking about. Yeah,
he got a separate language for Pekka.
Yeah, but but it must have been strange for him having me alongside of him, because I'd come up with my native words as well, and he bloody look at me, but he'd get over it in the end. But great relationship.
Yeah, and some great results. So this is in the Corolla. That's a cracking car, that, wasn't it?
It was
that car.
You could drive that car absolutely flat out. Don't matter how no matter how sharp the corner was, it could be flat out, because at the end of the day, it was forgiven. And I remember, I think it was the first rally we did with that car. I think could have been National Breakdown.
Yeah.
And I remember the regulations said something about, you had to carry the air cleaner. In other words, I suppose they wanted to say you had to have an air cleaner on that car because it was Group A. Mm-hmm. But I remember David Jules built a little box and put it in the boot, and he put the air cleaner inside. And I remember there was a small argument at Scrutineer about the interpretation of the rule book.
Did you not do the Whiting in that car? Was that not the first rally you did it?
Yeah, we did. We did the Whiting. I think we were 8th overall. We won our class.
You were, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we didn't bother to pick up an award. We gave it to the second guy.
Uh-huh.
And I forget who that was now, but it could have been actually Graham Ellsmore in a Corolla as well. It could have been Graham. I'm not sure, but he was. That was a great day. I mean, to go to the Whiting, and
I can imagine for you, like, incredible.
Yeah, because we were number 1 away.
Yeah, you were.
But to actually go there and do it as a practice rally, it was a lot of fun, and it was great for the locals because they loved it. Yeah,
amazing. Then, so that was 83. Then moving right through to the Celica came towards the end of that, didn't it?
Yeah.
So Celica, the first rally of Celica would have been Ivory Coast, clearly with Juha, then. RSC rally with Pekka.
Yeah, 83. Of course, that started from Bath.
Uh-huh.
And, Yeah, I mean, we sort of everybody do their own sort of preparation on it, and we thought we could do well on it. John Brown did the route that year, and it was a tough route, and we were holding good position. I mean, we were certainly in that first one, two, three. I'm not sure where we were when we needed to retire, but we went into the Dalby stage, which came out onto the toll road, and then went into I think Bockley maybe, or something that they call it. It was just a small forest on the north side of the toll road, and it was about it was a long stage. It was about 38 miles, and it was a really long stage. Of course, unknown to us, I mean, the tires had gone on the rear, and they were well, there's when the tires came off, there was nothing. It was right down past the canvas, and we went into the first left-hander, and it was high logs on both sides, and of course it just lost traction, and we rode up the logs, but of course because they were so high, we went up like a wall of death, and it went right to the top, and then turned over and came straight back down on its roof, and it put my back out, and my vertebrae 4, 5, and 6 popped out.
You've been in the wars, you have, like, over the years.
Hell, I am. And, the car was pushed over, and Pecker said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I have no wind in the lungs, and I have no back, but let's go." So we went, and we went all the way up, up on the north of the coast, and to the service, and I was in pain by then. And I said to Per, "You have to go to the time control because I can't get out." And we got there. We'd lost then, I don't know, we lost maybe 7 or 8 minutes there by the time somebody turned us over. And in the end, Pecker was a bit worried about me. So I said, "Look, I'm okay. Can you just find a doctor or something to give me something to kill the pain?" And of course, I didn't know about this 4, 5, and 6 jump down there. The Audi doctor came. Now, I don't know if you ever come across the Audi doctor. He was a French guy, and he was blind. And he used to take his daughter along, and she was an interpreter. He was a great guy. He actually repaired me twice. He came into the motorhome, and I remember him massaging my ear. And the next thing, I mean, I was gone. I went to sleep, and then he pulled my back and put it all back into place, and woke me up and set me going, and with some painkillers. And although I was all strapped up in the seat, Per got out and did all time control stuff for me, and I sat there and just did the job. But by the time we got up into Kildare, it was very painful. And if there was a big bump coming, Becker would actually lift off, But we got there, and there was some problem with the engine coming, and then all of a sudden it stopped. It turned out the tanker broke away from the flywheel. So I think all that happened with that big bang, you see.
Yeah,
I think,
of course.
It happened then. So that was a saving, but we had full intentions to try and win that rally. And Per was so good that week. The week before, because I was a local boy, all the schools wanted to see us. So the car went round to all the schools in Bath. We went to the Royal United Hospital into the children's ward, and we spent hours and hours there, talking to the kids, and the ones that were well enough, bring them out and put them in the car and let them sit, and kids that were going to die soon, and they were just enjoying themselves. And,
quite incredible. And
he played a huge part in that, and he loved it. And we really wanted to do well, but it wasn't to be. So, but we got up on the podium in '84, so that was the main thing.
What a rally that was!
That was a bloody good. It was a tough rally, but it was a good result in a 2-wheel drive car.
Yeah. So this is you on the podium, finishing third overall at the finish of the RSC, and this is the results. Have a look at this. So Vatanen wins it in the Peugeot. Mikkel is second in the Quattro. Michel Mouton fourth in the Quattro, and you in the middle. That's a hell of a drive.
Yeah, we had to fight to keep Michel behind. We thought we had Ari because I remember somewhere in Wales we went up onto this right-hand corner and Ari was up there on his roof when we arrived and the boys were nearly getting him back onto the wheels. But of course he had such a lead that, a few minutes, I mean, it was nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was tough. But to get that result, I have to say, he did a bloody good job. That year, in actual fact, talking about Juha now and going back to Fred, we were down in South Wales, and I think we were going into Riola, and it was very foggy. And I remember it was quite a long one. It was maybe 18, 19 miles. And he said, I remember him, Pecker saying to me, Whittock, how good do you know this stage? And I said, 90%.
It's a fast stage, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fast, but it's all map. It's all on. And I said, I can give you 90%. It's enough. It's okay. Because Juha was closing on. Juha was right behind us, couple of seconds. So we knew. But he started in front of us. So we knew very well. Of course, we drove through the stage in the fog, on the map, and bloody hell, we were taking some risks. But we couldn't find Juha. We got to the finish and he wasn't there. So I said to the marshal, is car number so-and-so through? No. Of course, he'd gone off. They were pushing as well, but they went off the road. And we waited 2 minutes and nothing came. And Packer said, we got him. We got him. He bloody knew that they'd gone off. And but they must have went down a long way because we never seen him. Yeah, he pushed hard. We took a lot of risks on that rally, but we got the result we wanted.
Brilliant. That was 84 then.
And of course, that gave me the opportunity then to go and have an opportunity to go work with the Motorsports Association for a year and do 90% of the European Championship as well, plus the British Championship. Because
that's a lot of time away. That's full time, like full time.
There was times when I think back then I got a feeling that you had to be away 250 days a year to be able to get yourself out of tax, and I didn't pay any tax.
Yeah,
I mean, I was away more than that.
Yeah,
I mean, it was horrendous, and and really every time I was home, I was up at Belgrave Square as well, and I mean, I used to go from a pair of racing overalls and a helmet to a blazer and trousers and a tie, because you wouldn't be allowed in up at Belgrave Square unless you had a tie on.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Peter Cooper, he called me in and he said, "Would I like to do it?" And I said, "How can I say no?" Because I'm also good. I'm an organizer at heart. I enjoy organizing. I love it. And he said, "Do you want to have a go at the route coordination? You can take over to do the route." And I said, "I'd love to do it." So he said, "Well, have a think about it." He said, "Come up on Monday and have a chat to me." So I went up on the Monday, and he said, "I've got one question to ask you." He said, "Because I have my own idea of how I want the rally to run." And he said, "What's your idea?" I said, "I'd like to make it an average stage length of 10 miles. That includes the Mickey Mouse Day as well." And he said, "That's a tall order." And I said, "Yeah, but I want to achieve that." He said, "If you can achieve that," he said, "do it." And I did. I took it on. And I managed to work then with another guy that, sadly passed away, but he was a guy that, I thought so much of, was Jim Porter.
Yeah, of course.
Driver.
Mm-hmm.
Jim was he was very quiet. He was very reserved. He would think a lot before he would actually say tackle something with you that he didn't like. But what I found out with Jim, that no matter what you said to him, he'd always remember it. He had this fantastic memory. And I remember having a breakfast in the hotel with him one morning, and he must have spent 10 minutes reading the Times. But for the next 2 days, he could tell me everything that was in that paper, you know. And I said, Jim, you bloody remember everything. And he did. He remembered everything. But I have to say, he let me do everything I wanted. There was a crossroads in Breckfast East that year that never been used double. So I wanted to go up, turn left, come down, and turn left again. So I wanted to use the junction twice.
Yeah.
It was a big junction. I mean, it was 40 meters across.
Yeah.
And he said, this won't work. It's not safe. And I said, I can make it safe. I promise you it can work. And he let me use it. And we did use it. And, you know, but other than that, I mean, I wanted to start the rally at Woollerton Park because we started in Nottingham. So everybody came to the start ramp. And on the start ramp, they went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they started the first special stage. And they allowed it. And we ran 65 stages that year. I think it was about 950 kilometer stages.
This is 85 we're talking about, isn't it? 85? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a tough rally. It was really tough. And but that's how I wanted it. That's how I seen it. And, you know, I mean, Malcolm Neal took over, but Peter actually offered me again to go in 86, but I refused that because that year Pecker had the Metro with John, and both of them talked me into saying, you know, you've got to go back in the car, and that's what I did. I went back with the Metro.
If Craig Breen ever watches this program, he'd be shouting at me now. Talk to him about this. 1,000 lakes. This is the photo I used for the publicity for this. 1,000 lakes in a Metro. Yeah. What was that like? I was fortunate enough to sit in Kenny Colbert's and do the Clare stages once, and it was a brilliant car, like it revved to 10 1/4 or whatever.
It didn't fly the best, I don't think.
No.
And of course, it used to have a lot of problem with the timing belt, with the
cam belt. Yeah.
Cam belt. I remember doing the Swedish, and the cam belt broke on the recce. And I can remember we were all sat out in the forest, the bloody cam belt broken, and I was trying to get these guys on the radio, and nothing ever happened, and couldn't get any service because Austin Rover was there. Well, the whole car was gone through Smith Motorsport, but you know, because Tony Pond and all was there, and Malcolm Wilson was there, we were using their service for the recce, and it was, I couldn't get any response. And then eventually somebody else come down the stage and they give me a lift, and I went down to where I knew where the service was. And, you know, very quickly then I remember Paul Drake was on the service crew, and we used to call Paul Shag. I don't know why, but we did. And I said, why aren't you, you know, listening to your radio? He said, the radio don't seem to be working, does it? He said, because we don't hear nothing. And I said, no, but do you think this is the reason? And of course, the reason was they've actually put the service van in the ditch, and the van was more or less upside down in the ditch. And the aerial was embedded into the ground.
You tend to struggle to get it out when the aerial is buried in the ground. We've known that over the years, haven't we?
But it happened to us, you know, the cam belt happened in the rally as well. And it wasn't a very good start for the first few events, but then we started to pull it together.
What do you think of the Metro? Like, it was cozy in there, wasn't it?
It's cozy, yeah. I mean, in Costa Smeralda, which is now Sardinian Rally.
It is, it was gravel back then. Yeah.
It was gravel then.
Yeah.
We come down off the mountain, and it was really twisty. And the only straight in the stage was 200 meters, and we just joined the straight, and this 200 meters straight up to a square right, and on the right hand side there was a vineyard, and we got halfway up this straight, and the car, you know, we were now flat, and so the car was, you know, doing, I suppose, 3 figures, and all of a sudden the car turned right and went straight through all these concrete posts which was lined up along the vineyard. and ripped the car to pieces, ripped Per side, the left-hand side of the car, all the way out, and it was all down to this the two bolts that hold the steering rack in the middle. They sheared, and we lost our steering. I remember sat in the car, and Pecker looked at me and he said, "Dave, you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." He said, "Can you check your bloody arms and legs first? Make sure you have them." So I said, "Yeah, I have my arms and my legs." And I looked at him and I said, because he used to always wear glasses. I said, "Where's your glasses?" "I don't know." I said, "But half your bloody helmet is gone as well. His helmet is broken." And I said, "Well, where's your door?" And the bloody door had gone and everything. And so we got out of the car. He said, "Now go careful." He said, "You have to be very careful." He said, "It was a big bang." And I got out of the car, and we were both a little bit jittery on our feet. But the Lancia boys, they had a helicopter, so they came down. They landed, and they took Per off to the hospital to get checked over.
Uh-huh.
And there was these dozen guys up in the vineyard picking the grapes, and they said, "Come on." They come and got me, and they took me up, and they all sat round to have lunch. So I think they came back to get me about 2 hours later, and I was fine. I was half pissed. I'd been on the and
Well, you must have ran out of wine if you're only half pissed.
Yeah. And it was another day at the office that were a little bit bumpy, but it was a good car though. We had some good, we had a second overall in Hunsrück Rally, which like Rally Germany.
Yeah.
We had that, and I think Michel beat us there.
Mm-hmm.
Good result.
Pekka was quite quick on tarmac as well for a Swede, wasn't
he? He was very good, and I think he was good. He was a good all-rounder. He could read the events very well. Like, you've got to think. I mean, we also finished third with a 200 SX in Safari.
Yeah.
Nissan, two-wheel drive. Yeah. I mean, he was actually very, very good at riding around a problem. He could recognize he had a problem, and then he could drive around it until he could get it put right. And he could see all the faults of a car, but he could then use his own skill to drive around that. And I think he was extremely good. He was underrated, and I always felt that he should have been offered something a little bit more than he had.
Yeah. He was just a great character as well, wasn't he? He's the Swedish equivalent of Marco, I think, isn't he? As regards flat out everywhere. Everything's had to be done flat out.
The thing that's happened, I mean, I think I can't remember, I can't honestly remember which rally it was now, but we started in Carlisle, and or the regroup was in Carlisle, and it was at the Ladbroke Hotel, which was on that south junction of Carlisle. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if the Ladbroke Hotel is still there now, but I remember the start was all out the front of the rooms, and I was down there in the morning, and bloody hell, I mean, we had to go get the car out of Park Ferme, and Pecker was still nothing to be there. So I knew which room he was in, and I called him before, and I mean, I think he was just, I'm lying, but I called him, and he said, he came to the window in his underpants, and I said, "Come on, you've got 1 minute." So, I mean, all right, it was about 10 foot to the garden, and there was a big garden in front, and it was just dirt. So Pecker, his helmet in one hand, sorry, not his helmet, his headset in one hand, and his overalls in the other hand, opens the window and jumps out on the garden in his underpants. And he says, "Am I on time?" he says. And he puts on his overalls in front of everybody. We get in the car and we go. And no panic. No panic, but he just displayed himself in his pair of underpants in front of everybody. just with his overalls in his hands. And that was the character. He was total character.
Brilliant, yeah. I need to go back to Finland in '86. So this is the rally that we saw earlier in the metro. But there's something happened with the recce I need to ask about.
Well, the Russians used to send over their crews, you see, in the Wartburgs and the Moscoviches and everything then. And it was quite strange really, because they had a minder as well. So the minder, he would be multilingual, so he could speak to everybody. And but he would watch every move they make. So although these guys were allowed out of Russia to do these rallies, they were watched. And they were watched from the time they started to the time they finished, and then they took them home. And they weren't allowed to go and stop, have a coffee or anything. They had to take everything themselves. Well, we were doing one stage on Finland, which meant that the best way to do it, everybody knew, was to turn around and go back the same way. So everybody drove it quite steady because there was a few jumps in it, and because you could always meet somebody. Well, we were driving back nice and steady, 30 mile an hour or something like this, and coming up to one of these crests, and this, I think it was a Wartburg. This bloody Wartburg come flying mid up in the air, and you knew he was going to land on your car. You knew that. But he landed again. He landed and took one side of the car out. Everything. He took the wing off, the windscreen out, the pillar, the door, the big wheel arch at the back. He took the whole one side of the car out.
So this is a rally car you're reckoning and remember as well, yeah?
Oh, this was our recce car, but it was a road car. But it was
right.
Yeah.
Got you, yeah.
But the Moscovich, or Wartburg, I mean, this was sort of a half a rally car, but it was their recce car. But, everything went quiet. And I said to Per, what the bloody hell was that? He said, I don't know. He said, where is it? And of course, I got out of the car and looked because, there was nothing left on our car. And I kept looking around and I couldn't see them. There was nothing. I thought they could have never carried on. Well, a couple of minutes later, I seen this little smoke coming up out of the bush down in the hill there. It was like the Indians living there, and the smoke was going up. And of course, I said to Pecker, you better go down and have a look. He said, I don't like to go down there because if there was anything funny going on, Pecker would never have nothing to do with it. He didn't like it. So anyway, we decided to sit on the side of the road and see what would come out of this smoke. So minutes went by, and then all of a sudden, you could hear like a door trying to open, and this guy crawled out, and he crawled up the bank, and then we said to him, "Are you okay?" He didn't understand a word we were talking about. So, and then he turned around and he went back. So I said to Pecker, he's gone back to get the other guy. Well, he went back, and then he came out again, but he had a box with him, little box. So he came up, and he was nearly the top, and his mate then started to come out. So they both come up, and they had this box, and they sat on there, and they were very white. And they were talking to us in Russian, and we didn't have a bloody clue what they were talking about. But at least they were okay. And so I thought, this is very strange. So I said, I tapped this box. I said, what's in the box? So he opens the box up, and he had his sandwiches.
It's his lunchbox.
His sandwiches, and like a little container full of a drink. And he went back in the car to get that. And that was his rations for the day. And incredible. Then you can see. And I had to go right down in there to take that picture. The road was a long way up.
That's mad, isn't it? Not a wheel on it. No?
Is that a Moscovich or is that a Wartburg?
I don't think it's a Wartburg, so it's probably a Moscovich.
It's a Moscovich, right. But they were lucky boys. They were lucky. And eventually I met their minder, and he spoke very good English. He was actually a doctor in St. Petersburg, and he was sent there to take care of them. And they apologized. And they did offer to, put some money to the repair of the car, but if they'd done that, they couldn't do the rally because they didn't have the money. So we said, they did the rally. Well, we did the rally.
Talk to me about the Clarion sponsorship, because everywhere Pekka went, it was Clarion, and originally was Stig and the whole Saab side of things. But Clarion stuck by Pekka for years, didn't it?
Yeah, there was a Clarion guy in Sweden, Rolf Grill. And,
so Clarion were in-car entertainment, so car speakers.
Car audio, full car.
Audio. Mm-hmm.
And they were all over the world. I mean, they had their head office, I think, is still in Germany, or no, maybe it's in Paris now. Sorry, but they were very heavy here as well in the UK, and they were very heavy in Scandinavia with in Stockholm. The guy in charge there was a guy called Rolf Grill, and Rolf, again, he liked Per. He became a very good friend of Per's, and he sponsored this for a long time. Again, Rolf is no longer with us. He's passed away a few years back, and we had a lot of good fun with Rolf. He was so passionate about the sport, and and he helped Pekka tremendously. I mean, he didn't only support Pekka. I mean, he supported many people. He supported Stig in the past. There was, there was a half a dozen Swedish guys.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And, he used to make sure that Sweden were on the map as far as the rally was concerned.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy. And you need them. You need them.
You need them, yeah. And that's a relationship you carried into Nissan, which we'll talk about later on as well. So Clarion was there as well at that point.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. What we used to do when we got drives where we were getting paid, for instance, like with Nissan or with Subaru or whatever then, we used to always make sure we had Clarion on the car. To try and do that deal, because that was something we could give back, just a little bit, something they didn't have to put any money to.
If you can get original equipment into a car, that then for a manufacturer, that's huge for Clarion's point of view.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And again, the whole business-to-business deals that some people are very good at. I just want to go back to the Safari. 1987 was this bad boy, which is familiar to me because I went backpacking in Australia in 1986, and this car dominated Australian rallying. Yeah. So this is the original Subaru, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the original.
The RA, WX, I think it was RA was the designation they used on it. Yeah. But
we did, we did Safari with the properly supported Japanese team. And we did it with Ari Vatanen, who was our teammate. And Ari made a big mistake because they recceed tighter hills incorrectly. And so when he went in the tighter hills, he took the wrong road, and which gave us about a 2-minute lead on him. And then I got a feeling then he ran out of petrol at some point as well up in the north, which cost him another 10 minutes or so. So although he finished, I mean, we kept going, we kept plodding, the car kept going, and we finished 5th overall. And nobody ever thought that was going to happen in that car, because it didn't handle the best, and it didn't handle the best, and you were never sure what was going to happen. You've got to remember, you not only had a gearbox there, but you had a lever which took you into 4-wheel drive and out of 4-wheel drive, and sometimes this bloody thing moves, and then you didn't have any drive at all. But it was really good. But we did Monte Carlo in that car as well. We did that run by a Swiss guy, and Freddie Kessler, and I think we were. I think we managed to get it in 9 overall in Monte Carlo, and I mean, again, it was okay, but it understeered everywhere. It's something you couldn't change. I mean, it was a bit of a dog to drive. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tense. But again, there's only 2 rallies. Yeah, you were 10th, but it's still in Monte Carlo in a car like that, ran by Subaru Deutschland. It was like, something else.
Harold de Muth was our teammate.
Yeah, I remember him coming across the Circuit of Ireland in '83, I think it was.
He was a lovely guy. And he retired on the first stage, just on this problem that I told you about. He retired because he didn't. The gearbox. He said the gearbox had failed. But when the mechanics got there, they put the lever into 4-wheel drive and just drove it away. And this lever just moved just a little bit, and you didn't have no drive. And
But then Per had his own car then for 1,000 Lakes that year. This is a bad boy here.
Yeah, the Audi 8. Yeah, I mean that was a fantastic car. And I think all the time I was with Per, although he was a brilliant driver in that 1600 Corolla, with something with a bit more power, because that Audi 80 was Group A as well. So that wasn't a Group B car, that was a Group A car.
Yeah.
I felt that he could drive that the best, that car. He was really, really good with that car. And even when we went to the Group B Long Quattro, again, which was his own car, he seemed to have, I don't know, he seemed to have a better connection with those cars than I've seen him with the other vehicles. Maybe it was because his own and he's built them, and he was a brilliant mechanic, Becker. Brilliant mechanic. Everything was done on a fag packet. He would draw everything. He would draw everything on a piece of paper, and he would find somebody to manufacture it, get it to go. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant in that way, and I think that was another reason why he could talk to the engineers. He could get a car that didn't handle because he knew what to tell them. He knew what to do, and if he couldn't explain what to do, he'd get and do it himself. Many, many times I've said to him, "Wash your bloody hands." I got dirty again in the morning. And he was very good in that way. Very good.
There's a car I want to talk about. Is the Nissan Micra, the March Turbo. So turbo and supercharger, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So there's a 1-litre engine in it.
With a 930 engine. With a turbocharge and a supercharger.
Right. So you used this in 1988. This is on the in Monte in 1989. That photograph is, but you used it in '88 as well.
Yeah.
So you did the Himalayan Rally. What was that all about?
Oh, that was incredible. We did Himalaya and Malaysia,
and the Scottish. We'll talk about the Scottish in a second, but
Himalaya was fantastic rally. Per and I just come back from Olympus Rally. We was over there with Nissan. We did the Olympus Rally with the 200 SX. You needed a good hand in a lot of power car. And I think we finished 9th over there.
Is that a V6 that Nissan?
Sorry?
Was it a V6 that Nissan, that 200?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite a nice car, but for a normal fast forest rally, it wasn't really at all. But we done that, and I remember I must tell you this story because it leads into a Himalaya. But we were doing the recce, and we stopped. We just stopped to have a pee, and we were just there having a chat and having a pee, and I looked up, and 30 yards in front of us, there was this bloody great big black bear stood on his legs with his front feet up in the air. And he came down and, he looked and he grunted. And I said to Pecker, in the car, we must get in the car. So we got in the car and the old bear walked away. And, it was a bit of a shock to us, but we carried on. And an hour or so later, we came across this hut in the middle of the woods. This is up in, the Montana area. So we came to this hut, and this hut was open. The smoke was coming out the roof and everything else. So we stopped and went in, and of course there was this lady in there. She sold coffee, and she helps the hunters. And I said to her, "Are you here on your own?" And she said, "I am now." And she said, "My husband died a couple of weeks ago." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." I said, "I'm very sorry." She said, "Yeah." She said he was out hunting and he got shot. And I thought, Mamma mia. So of course I talked to her about these bears, and she said they're everywhere in here. She said, you have to be careful. Well, of course, when we left the Olympus Rally, and we went back to Himalaya in New Delhi, we were in this hotel, and it was pretty grim. And in the morning, it must have been about 7 o'clock. There was a rumpus outside, and poor Pecker and I was sharing a room, and I said to Pecker, "What's this bloody noise?" And he said, "Have a look." And I opened the curtains and had a look, and there was this guy outside on the pavement entertaining people going to work by wrestling with this bear. And I said to Pecker, "They brought the bloody bear over here." And it was absolutely incredible. And even on the rally, this turbo was playing up on this car, and we stopped, and we were right up into the national forest then. And when Pecker was under the bonnet repairing this car, I was just looking around because anything could be there. And lo and behold, again within 30-40 meters, there was a tiger. And I said to Pecker, this is like being on bloody safari. This is absolutely, I said, "You must get back in the car until he's gone." But, anyway, we got repaired and off we went. But, when we used to go back into the rest halls at night, everybody used to sleep on the floor, in one room, and, like in army barracks and all the rest. It was phenomenal. I mean, there was many junctions where there would be a policeman and he would be saying, "Go this way." And in actual fact, the roadbook was taking you this way. So you had to make up your mind whether he was telling you the right thing.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, I mean, but
some adventures, and you think about it, that's just one rally. The stories in that one rally alone could fill an hour, I'm sure. But
yeah,
go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I learned a lot from it as well. I learned a lot from certainly from Himalaya Rally, and the fact that there's so many people in India, and they were so passionate. And I remember coming into New Delhi, for tens of miles, there was hundreds of people just lining the roads, and we were coming back behind Janti Shah, and Janti Shah was also driving in Nissan, and we were following him back in. And I can remember we were maybe 6-7 miles outside of New Delhi, and a little boy ran out in front of Janti, and he hit him and he killed him. And of course, I said to Pecker, "You must stop." And he stopped, and I got out and I ran to this little boy, and there wasn't a mark on him, but he was dead. And within 2 seconds, I had 200 people around me, and Janti stopped and come back and got me and said, if he never got me out of there, I wouldn't have got out of there alive. I mean, because but everything settled down, and I remember, there's little things that happened, and that was a big thing that happened. But I shouldn't have really got out, because I didn't realize, I could have done that here, and I could have done the right thing. But unfortunately, at that time in India, it was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, lots of memories I had from Himalaya.
It's quite incredible. What a story.
Very incredible.
Go back to 1988 on the Scottish Rally. There is a story again on the recce that happened. Do you remember this? Again, I think you're in the micro.
I remember this very well. Yeah.
Tell me.
There was on the Elibank, Yare and Elibank forest,
Yeah, Cardrona is the third one. There's 3 of them in a row. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's near Peebles, isn't it? That's right.
Yeah, just south of Peebles. Yeah.
Yeah, we were coming down the yellow on the recce, and the main road goes like square left, and you go
Does.
under the forest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I was half asleep. I think I might have dropped off, and Packer was on full flight at quite a lot of miles per hour. And as we just crossed that junction, a lady come around the corner. Of course, we hit her, and but only just glanced her really enough to take her front off, but not her. She didn't get hurt. She just got
Yeah.
very shaken. But it broke our recce car. Of course, we thought, damn, what do we do now? So we knew somewhere behind us was John Hogland, and he was with Bobby Willis.
He was, yeah.
And they had the Skoda.
That's right.
Of course, when John turned up, Pecker started talking to him in half Swedish and half Norwegian, and they'd done a deal. And of course, so Bobby and I sat in the back on the headsets. Per and well, there you are. There's a good picture there.
Yeah.
Per and I was in the back looking. Bobby and John was in the front.
I think this is version 1. Version 2 was the co-drivers in the back, but this was the initial setup of what I can gather.
That's right. And then Bobby and I went to the back, and the drivers went to the front.
Yeah.
And we completed the whole recce for the rally in that manner. And good old John, he came to the rescue.
But wasn't there a story about headsets being changed around? So
Yes. There was all this bloody story. They were changing them around, and the next minute I could hear Pecker going, 50, medium left, opens, and then I bloody had this Norwegian guy on there. Oh, dearie me. We had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Some fun.
That's where I got really good friends with Bobby from there, really.
Well, yeah, and Scottish Rally, there's a link here as well. So we showed this photo earlier about you and the Scottish Rally. So that is the car that then Bobby and Alan Willis
that's right.
used in the British Junior Championship.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
So if we go...
Sponsored by Johnson's, was it, of Belfast or something?
Neville Johnson, yeah, and there's C-Link. I think C-Link at the time were on there. I can't remember.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But I just want to go and have a look at the comments now because we haven't been there for a while. So let's see who else is here. It might stir a few memories here for you as we go through this. So I love doing this. It's the whole point of doing it live so we can get this involved. So, right, where have I got to? So we've got the sound sorted, I think, now. And Dave says the sound of a Healy 3000 is something, but what about the 6R4? Well, we've talked about that. We know about that one. And the Healy is far better. Behave yourself. There's a bit of banter going on here now. This is good. Road rally was a great intro to the sport, Dave. Do you think the speeds were getting too fast and it had to be controlled?
Well, yeah, it did have to be controlled because... there's no secret. I mean, the John Brown way of target timing. I can remember sat at home on a Friday or a Saturday morning doing the tables, and I know the speed averages were very high, and especially when they went to Motor News, and you could put them very high, and they still clean them. Something had to be done. I can remember on the last Motor News rally we actually sent, as a club, we sent 2 households en route to Bournemouth for the weekend because they didn't want to hear the rally go by, and we got rid of them. We sent them down to Bournemouth for the weekend. But something had to happen. And I know it's all gone back to 30 mile an hour now, but I've also done road rallies recently, and bloody hell, they're still quick.
Yeah.
It's, I think they have to make closed road rallying. It has to come quicker. It has to come as quick as possible and easy reach to the clubs to do it, even if it's only 30, 40 miles. It has to be easy for people to organise for the future, because you know yourself, every farmhouse is now turned into buildings of some sort with people living in it.
Yeah.
There's houses going up everywhere. What they used to be is now part of a town. I think it's short-lived now. this in '86 as well.
I know, of course, yeah. We mentioned Bobby there, and we know Bobby's flat out trying to get a round of the World Championship back in the UK, specifically Rally Northern Ireland up and running. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I've obviously been aware of this for a long time, and I know that Bobby can run a very good rally. Even when he had the European Championship, but I think to bring it back into Northern Ireland would be fantastic. I think it would be exactly the same feeling as what they've just had in Croatia. To go somewhere new, and it would blow their mind.
Yeah,
Their mind. The roads is fantastic. The facilities is great. I just hope it happens, because I think if we have to rely on putting it into the forest over here, again, I don't think it will ever be so easy as it was before.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I think COVID have made people realise quite a few things, and I'm frightened that maybe the Forestry Commission is not going to be so open for us to go back into it as they were before.
Yeah, they're certainly going to be used a lot more for people. People who live in cities and towns would get that, understand that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So Bobby sent a few notes here. 3 memories, and Alan Johnson's picked up by TTGB. Dave spent so many ever-patient hours teaching Bobby. He learned so much from him, so clearly that's important. Dave organised one of the hardest ARC rallies, the stages of 4 miles, I think, in Dalby. Amazing. That probably meant 40 miles.
Yeah.
Right. Early 80s, that was. Later years with Dave sharing a recce car in the Scottish, I was in that. And the straight on over the roundabout was absolutely a great story. Dave Moynihan reckons that your memory from names and fine details incredible. You've always been like that, so nothing new there. And you're nearly 55 now, aren't you? Hi Dave, you joined us at Bob Foden 1982 Mule of Victory. That's Neil James, Port Talbot Motor Club, isn't it?
Yeah. Bob asked me in '82 if I would do Mule, and of course Bob was now the new King of Epping, and I've already been with one King of Epping and bloody destroyed myself. But I went with Bob, and it was faultless. I mean, a brilliant driver, Bob. And such a nice bloke. I mean, he was a really, he always called me Di, and I mean, he was so nice to be with all day. But he didn't need no help over at Epping. I mean, I sat there for the ride because he knew every inch of it. And so it was good, really. Yeah.
Excellent. Robert Lawson's watching. My sister is watching the caravan. So we got a caravan on the County Down coast, and the annual washing of your trophies. So as I've said before, there's one trophy behind me there, which is the co-drivers runners up in the British Championship. The only motivation you ever need. There's nothing else apart from one here to keep my pens in, which is a Network Q one. But all the glass that I've won over the years in the caravan that my sister goes to, spends most of her summer in. So it's the annual washing of the trophies apparently is going on at the minute.
Yeah.
Funny. Does Dave remember the sensational third overall in the snowy Mintex with Per and Little Corolla?
Yeah, I do.
Tell us about it.
That was quite strange, really, because we were running on Michelin tyres, and Per said to me before the rally, if it's what they say it is, when we get up into Cropton, Dalby, he said, we're going to have a major problem, and he said, because I don't think these tyres are good enough. He said, what we need, we need some decent road tyres. He said, for the snow, like a winter tyre. And Michelin, I can't remember the model name, but it was Michelin made this winter road tyre. And Packer sent the boys out to find some. And I think they come back with about a dozen of them. And we put them on that snow. And we put ourselves up there with the boys. I mean, in that snow and in the dark, and I got a feeling it could have been foggy as well in the night. But people like Jimmy and Russell, they couldn't touch us. I think it was Stig. It was either Stig or Hannu out in front, and and even then we could close on them. And
Yeah.
but Pecker knew how to bloody drive on the ice with the right rubber.
Yeah.
But we were frightened of punchers, but we never got any.
I know. Yeah.
You see, so we were perfect.
Something similar happened a couple of years before. It was 81 when Os McHale went there in the Group 1 escort, the black car, in the snow and the ice. Penty won it in the Rothmans car, and Austin finished third overall that time as well. Same rally, so it does happen. Yeah. That was a Lada, apparently, according to Dave Welford.
That was a Lada, was it?
It was a Lada, yeah. Well, the Russian side of it would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? It's half time. Ulster beating Leinster. My goodness, that's a good result tonight. Robbie McGurk, I hope you're watching both. Kieran McAnallen says, Trev, can Dave remember the year I left him and Per back to the Belfast International Airport after the Ulster Rally press lunch in the Europa Hotel, I assume that is, in the early 80s?
Wow.
Sounds to me that there might have been alcohol involved there of some sort.
It could have been, yeah. I can remember having quite a few parties, certainly at the Europa Hotel.
Yes, we did over the years. Yes. Best car up the icy Woodyard Hill, that micro thingy in 1988.
Yeah.
There, right.
That micro up from the Woodyard, that was on an RAC rally. And we got halfway up the icy hill. We were on Dunlops that year. And these Dunlops were about as good as a slick. They were terrible in the ice. Mm-hmm. We got halfway up and we got stuck. We couldn't actually go up that bloody hill out of the Woodyard. Mm-hmm. So we waited because the car behind us was our good old friend, John Hogland.
Yeah.
We knew he was coming. And I got round in the back and I opened the boot and I sat in the boot. And when John arrived, I put my feet on his bonnet and he pushed us up to the top and we let him go past. And we could not go up that hill. It was sheet ice, but that car, you didn't have anything. You didn't have anything under 6,000. So it was just
not much worry about T2 and 3, T2, 3 and 4 at that point. Then you're being pushed.
No, bloody hell, feet out and up we go. Yeah.
Ocean Price is watching. Good to have you watching, Ocean. Great to listen to Dave's stories. Happen to those who can tell them. Did Ross ever mention his only co-driving outing for me on a test?
Right. No, I didn't know Ross co-drove for Ocean. I didn't know
only on a test, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't realise that.
Well, there's a second half of this story. I think it needs to be told. So get typing, Ocean. Yeah. He clearly hasn't mentioned it, or at least Dave can't remember it. So we need.
No, maybe it was something when he went off with Tom Llewellyn. So.
Right. Okay. We'll come back to that one a little bit later.
Yeah.
So where are we now? We're up to the end of the co-driving, really, I suppose, and you're talking about the Nissan and.
Yeah, we're coming up to 89. I'll be very honest with you. I was thinking in 89, I wanted to do something different, and I wasn't quite sure where Per was going, and coming up to that point, I've been offered different rides with, I know Malcolm Wilson. He wanted me to go in the Astor with him, and in the end, I decided no, I'm going to stay with Per because I think it's one of those things, you get loyal to them. But I wasn't sure what he was going to do after 89. My daughter, she was being born in May, and I said to Per, I really want to be back for the birth, and I said it's right on Acropolis time, and if it's actually 2 or 3 days early, it might be during Acropolis. So I said, I don't know. Well, we agreed that we will put Plan B into action. And Plan B was with Bjorn Sederberg. So Captain, as I call him.
Captain, yes.
I spoke to Captain and I said, Captain, if Steph's going to be born, Steph as she is now, if she was going to be born on the time when we were down there, would he step in? And he said, of course. He said, Margaret, it was his wife's name. He said, Margaret told me I have to do it. So that's what he did. And it was the rally was starting on the Saturday. I think it was the Thursday night Diane went in the hospital, and the Friday morning early she had Steph, and I actually got hold of Captain, and he came back to me, within minutes, and said I could be down there tomorrow morning. So I said, right, well, I'm going to try and go home. I said, if I leave all the notes, it's no problem. You leave all the notes. He said, I can leave the notes. So in actual fact, Acropolis 89, Bjorn went, he did Acropolis then with Per. And I got home. I managed to get my brother to come up to Heathrow to pick me up. And I walked into the Royal United Hospital in Bath, and Steph had been born 15 minutes. So I were 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
But I did what I promised I'd do, and then after that, the program was a little bit fluid, so there wasn't really nothing going on, and I had a few other opportunities, and those opportunities. I did 6 months, 6 months at Motorsport Association. As a consultant, but what I did do was I tidied up the yearbook to a point where it was getting a little bit stale, and in that year, on November, the Japanese asked me if I would. The Japanese, being Nissan, asked me if I would go out and take 3 or 4 of them out and show them what RAC Rally was all about. That's what I did. It was not very long after that I had a call. I was going down to Salisbury actually one evening to present some awards to the Civil Service Motor Club, and I had a call from Nissan, and they said, Daysan, can you be in Heathrow 2 days' time in the morning? We're flying in, and could we have a meeting? And I said, yeah. And when I got there, they said, look, at the time then, nobody knew about it, but they said, we're going to close everything at Milton Keynes. We're going to get rid of everybody. And I said, how about the director, the financial director, team coordinator? They're all going, they said. And I said, oh, right. And I said, so what do you intend to do? And they said, we want to start up a smaller operation, and we want you to run it. And I said, oh, right. And, it was such a big deal. I couldn't even, bloody hell, my head was swimming. I couldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So I went to Milton Keynes after they got rid of everybody. I got place cleared out, sold off what I could, kept what I needed to keep. I chose 9 mechanics, I think it was 8 or 9 mechanics. And I chose them. Talked to them and said, I'm trying to do this. Would you stand by me? And they said, yeah. I went down, I looked everywhere. I traveled the country up and down looking for somewhere to operate out of. I found this new workshop in Didcot. I went to the guys and said, look, would you like to see Nissan on your billboard? And they said, we'd love to. I said, okay. Could we have 2 years free rent? And they said yes. So we went into this unit with 2 years free rent, which so they certainly had their money back in the end. I found some Arabic builders up in Silverstone, so they could work over Christmas, and they put all mezzanine flooring in, and we had the whole job up and running, and we actually moved in. Like at the beginning of the year, I'd already been talking to Gregoire de Mavis because we had the GTIR there.
Yeah.
We kept that car, but Gregoire took me over to see a Mr. Goosens, who was Alcatel's boss, and we did a deal, and we went out and did the Belgian Rally Championship, which we won, and that was, it was a baptism of fire. But we had the best team of guys there. I mean, I won't name them because I'll forget one of them.
Of course, yeah.
they were all brilliant. They were 100%, 110%. They not only played 110%, but they worked 110%.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure to be there. And I've never had worked and been able to have to control these sort of people. I never had to control a budget before. I mean, I learned so much very fast. And I had people. My boss was in charge uh, Amsterdam, their head office for Europe. I had the factory really, looking at me as well, up in Newcastle. Um, but in the end, they all got to like me. They all got to help me. They knew what I was good at and what I wasn't very good at, and they helped me. And it all started to work. And it all started to work until they introduced into NME the racing program. And they introduced the racing program, which, it was successful. But I knew very well that I knew where I stood with it, because I remember we've done Silverstone. We did the Grand Prix at Silverstone, and or support race there.
Yeah.
I remember that Keith O'Dore was driving the Nissan then. Keith sadly died, shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
But we had Tiff Liddell driving our car, and we had a lot of rally mechanics onto a race that had to tidy up and build a race car, and they had no experience. And we were leading that race. And I remember stood out on the pit wall, and Jan O'Dore came to me with a phone and said, "It's for you." And it was Amsterdam, and they said, "Tell him to back off. We need to win." And so I knew where I stood with this racing program
Yeah.
from day one. And there was a lot of money being pumped into it. And, eventually the Japanese came in and moved in. And, it was all to do with the relationship. I mean, I knew that when the Japanese moved in, they were certainly not rally people. And I had a commercial business going there with the Micras, which funded the rally program with sponsors. So we weren't using Nissan's money. And unlike the racing team that was using a big budget, but I knew my days were numbered with it. I mean, we went through with Mark and with Alistair, with Tommy Mackinnon.
Yeah. Incredible.
Well, we went through them all. But I knew my days were going to be numbered at one point, because it got to a point where, I couldn't see the enthusiasm from the Japanese there. The Japanese guys that were there was, nobody had any enthusiasm about what we were doing. And so, yeah, it was a hard time. And then I went to Frankfurt Motor Show, and I asked them all, because everybody of Nissan, it was any shaker, any doer there of Nissan, they were all there. And I called a meeting, and I said, we'd like to do the World Championship. And I could do it that year because I signed up. I went on to sign Tony Gardemeister, and because Tony Gardemeister, he brought some money, because by then I knew Timo Yuki, who was Tommy's man, and
You have as well.
Juha as well. And so they brought some money, and we had it all signed up for him to do 6 rounds in this from F2 class.
Yeah.
And it got to the point I went to Finland, we did a big press launch, we did everything. And then they all of a sudden looked up and said, we're going to close, because that was their way out of it then. They were going to close it because the touring car wasn't going to happen anymore. And, and they were making sure that the rally wasn't going to last as well. And we had a brilliant car. We had that Almera already done then, and the boys so hard on that. And we had a fantastic engine.
Yeah.
Dick Langford up at Langford and Peck, they did the engine, and they did a fantastic job.
This the Sunny was incredible. You know, Alistair and Dave Senior won '95 for you. Of course,
Yeah,
Mark and Phil Mills in '97. All that drama at the end of all the years in the British Rally Championship
yeah,
'97, right to the wire, and then Mark over in the
yeah,
Curragh where he took a wheel off or bent the wheel off it. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think for sure. I mean, I think I chose two good drivers there with Mark and with Alistair. You know, and they were all brilliant guys to work with. Really, I mean, you know, of course they were quite demanding. When Alistair wanted something, you know, he'd more likely get his dad to phone up.
yeah,
And when Mark wanted something, he'd just keep on.
yeah.
At the end of the day, um, yeah, I mean, I was really pushed against the wall many times, you know, even with a micro challenge. You know, I had guys there that I really wanted to help. I mean, Noel was one of
Well,
them.
now, 1997 he won it, didn't he? 97 would have been, yeah, he was a champion then. Look what he went on to do.
I really wanted to help Noel because not only did I like the guy, but, you know, I could see potential. He was a good driver. And, but, you know, and I helped him out many times. You know, I know, you know, when he had his gearbox, you know, gearboxes, things like this, I used to forget to invoice him and all this.
Yeah, he did mention that when he was on a few weeks back.
Yeah.
He did. He said that you were very good to him, so fair play.
I mean, I had to do it because, you know, I mean, just to keep him going. But I wished I could have. I wished he, you know, I wish somebody would have given him some money so he could have come to me and said, "Look, can I put myself in one of these F2 cars?" And
Yeah,
because
and,
I would have done it, you know.
uh,
And then, of course, we had Tommy. We had Tommy over. Timo brought some money, and Tommy came in, and yeah, he upset the world. I
he did.
remember we were doing a pre-rally test on Ulster, and Tommy, he wasn't happy with the handling of the car, not at all. And he come back and he said, you know, I mean, his words was, "This car handles like a bag of shit," he said. "And if it goes on like this, maybe a one-way ticket back to Finland is good." And I said, "If that's what you want, you can have one." And Seppo Harian then was
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
Seppo said, Dave, don't worry. You know, yeah, calm down. And of course, he did calm down. You know, he was just a young Finn that
Uh-huh.
thought, you know, everybody could give them everything. And you know, he won F2 on that rally. And I forget what he was overall, but I don't know, 5 or 6, something like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I mean, he was just brilliant. And of course, the big sponsor on that car then was Clarion,
Of course, yeah. That's what I go back to earlier.
and that was run by a guy called Colin South.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, Colin, I can remember Colin saying to me, you know, they went to one of the big jumps on one of the early stages, and he said we were stood out in the field there, right underneath the jump, and he said, and you could not believe how high that car was going. He was so excited. He knew he had sponsorship for the next 5 years.
Uh-huh. Can launch it.
Yeah, 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 brilliant. Yeah,
So I just want to sideline a little bit because a lot of people don't know that you were involved in the live action part of the Autosport International show and also the Top Gear live events as well. You and Simon put
yeah,
together the business
yeah.
around
I
that.
mean, Simon Aldridge. I mean, Simon and I go back a long way,
Mm.
and yeah, we go back really to well, we go back. I reckon we go back to the early '80s, and when we sort of met up with one another, and then Simon started to work on, you know, the like you say, NEC at the Autosport International, and you know, I got involved with him, and my role was really to find the cars and the drivers, and really take care of them during the show. And Simon, he was the creative man. He used to create, you know, he used to come up with the ideas and build it. And we worked together for, you know, we worked together for some years on it. I mean, we did those rallies. We did, um, like you say, we went on to do Top Gear, and you know, we did various things with them. You know, we went to Scotland and did one up there, and we did one which was called a Metropolis, which was outside on the NEC, and Simon was very creative, very creative.
Yeah, incredible. You know, we had the Saab Super 6 guys there in 98, and just to see behind the scenes, of course, a lot of the time you're using Top Gear presenters, you're using Tiff, you're using Clarkston. Yeah, and that was, what, between 97 2004, probably 8 years of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then along the way, the endurance rallies as well. So the World Cup rally you organised for Philip Young in 2001, but also there's the Around the World rally in 2000. But that took up a lot of your time as well.
Yeah, it did. I mean, because really, when I gave up everything, after going to America with Stig and everything else, what year was it? What year was it I was with you, with David Sutton? 2003?
2003. You started probably 2002, and that went on to 2005 probably with Sutton.
Well, when I really sort of gave up, knowing that I was I had a bit more time to myself, which was around about that 2000 mark. Philip Young asked me, he said, what do you want to do? He said, I'm organising this round the world rally. He said, would you like to do the route? And I said, well, I must think about it. He said, we only got to tomorrow morning. Well, I thought about it, and I said to Dan, if I do this, I'm going to be gone for 3 months. And of course, then we have Ross on the way. Oh no, sorry, 2000. Ross was what, 8, 9, and Steph was 9, 10. And we thought, well, I don't know what to do really, I said, yeah, we'll do it. And so I said to Philip, he wanted to get me one of the latest Mitsubishis, and I said, no, we must have an old car. I said, because if we go across Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, I said, we're going to get problems with fuel and everything. Nobody would be able to repair it. So Philip, give him credit. He bought the last 504 estate car, which came off the production line, a Peugeot 504 estate in Kenya. That was the last one off the production line. He bought this, and he said he put some bloody hard tires on it, and he said, can you find somebody to do some work on it to make sure it's going to stay together? And I said, well, I need somebody to come around with me. And I said, have you got any idea of a route? And he said, no. He said, I want to go to Istanbul. He said, I want to go to Beijing. And he said, and then we need to restart again from Anchorage. So we had this Antronos. We hired an Antronos to take the cars. We started 100 cars on Tower Bridge with Sterling Moss, and we took them to Istanbul.
These are 1,400 cars, weren't they?
No, this is not the World Cup. This was the...
Right, okay, sorry.
This was all classic cars.
Got you, okay. Yeah.
But it was a competitive rally. So we have competitive sections every day. And we took, I think 50 dropped off in Istanbul, and the rest then, or maybe 30 dropped off. And then another 30 dropped off when we got to Peking. And we took 50 cars then across to Anchorage in this Antonov. And so I went across with the Russian crew in this Antonov. And I mean, you never think it's ever going to take off. And then you hear all these bloody alarms going off. I mean, it was a fantastic experience. And then when we got to Anchorage, we went through America. And I had a lot of help in America with John Bellaflor. John used to co-drive for John Buffin, and so he helped a lot across Canada into America. We came down to New York, and then the Antonov came in and picked them up again and took them to Marrakesh, and then from Marrakesh I took them south out onto the desert for the night, and then back up through to Spain, France, back home. And it was supposed to be 80 days. And it wasn't until the prize giving on the night in the Tower of London Hotel there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until somebody came up to me and said, this round the world in 80 days, Dave. And I said, yeah. He said, well, Today is the 79th day. So I made a bloody whole boo-boo by running this rally called Around the World in 80 Days, and it only lasted 79.
You could have went to Bath and back on the way home.
It was only 79 days. It was, I met a lot of people, and, the recce was tough. I mean, I had a guy, Paul Dowland, we used to call him Taff. He lived in South Wales, and Paul used to work for me at Nissan, and I had people in Bolivia as customers, and gangsters in Spain, and all this around, and the only person to send to them all was Taff. Taff used to love it. When he was up to here in dirt, he was happy. So I phoned Taff and I said to Taff, I'm going around the world. Would you like to come with me? Yeah, he said, when are we leaving? Tomorrow? And I said, that's what I want to do. So Taff sent me his passports. I got all his visas and everything sorted out, and off we went. We left. He put a few, couple of fuel filters on this car and did a few modifications to it. And I can remember walking out of here now and saying goodbye to Diane, and we were gone for 3 months, and we only went to Peking. It took us 3 months to do the whole route properly. And because I knew I had to sort everything out, hotels, all with the councils and everything. It was no good coming back because, we picked up interpreters on the way, and we had help on the way, and yeah, it was a hell of an experience. So I did that. John picked up Canada and America, and then I went in to help that. And then I did all the South on my own as well. I did that with Bobby. Bobby came down through Morocco because he could speak French, and
This is version of Saturday from Ypres to San Remo and all around Morocco. Incredible trips and incredible stories, and especially driving through the market streets of Marrakesh.
Yes, I can tell you about that. Bobby was driving, and I said to Bobby, we can never go down. We went through like in the souk there and started to go down through the streets. And I said to Bobby, we can never get down through here. Oh yeah, we can. And it got narrower and narrower. Of course, we were knocking people over with the wing mirrors, and then I said, but which way do we go? Because it was a casino that lasted about 2 hours because neither of us knew how to get out of there, and the bloody roads kept pulling us in and in and in. But we had a fantastic time together. Great time. But and then of course I came back. I had all this. I had all this in all these books, all the notes in books. The tulips. So I had to come back and rewrite all this, and really just pull it together. And we ran the event a year later, and went off with that hitch.
So you go around again.
Run again.
Second lap.
I think when I went round the second lap, I think it was 37,000 kilometers, something like that. It was a long
Incredible,
one.
Isn't it? Yeah. Some stories. That's just nuts.
But the World Cup, you talked about the World Cup rally.
The World Cup, yeah. I think Barbara did that, didn't she? Barbara Armstrong.
Barbara won that, yeah. That was for 1400 cars. That was another idea of Phillips.
Yeah.
And, again, the recce was just tremendous. But that time, Ernie Wardring come with me on the recce, and we were down in the deep of Morocco, and I was doing one of the stages that they used on Rally Morocco, and it was rough as oak boots. And Mick Linford, he let me borrow a 206,
okay,
a new car. He let me borrow this one, and of course, I hit this stone. I was driving, and I hit this stone a bit hard, and it was a bit of a bang, and the car stopped. We were really in the middle of nowhere. And the car stopped, and I couldn't get it started. And we waited for about half an hour, and this guy came down with a donkey. And I can't speak French, but I'm pretty good at making somebody understand something. So he understood that we were going nowhere, and he kept trying to tell me that maybe 5 or 6 hours, and I thought he's going to get somebody to come back for me. Well, true to his word, about 5 hours later, this really worn out transit van came back up the other way. And by now it was dark. And Ernie and I was thinking about sleeping in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, he came back up, and they towed us all the way down to this. Well, it was right in the middle of nowhere. They made us very welcome. They fed us, and we got up in the morning, and I needed to get this car back to Fez, and we found like this big dip outside, like a big hollow, and we put some planks across there, and we got this guy with a wagon who would take us there. So we got the wagon back into this big hill of dirt, and we pushed the car across the planks onto the wagon. So when we got on there, at that point, for the first time now for 2 days, I have 1 bar on my phone. I thought I must ring Mick Ligford. So I rang Mick, and I said to Mick, he said, "Everything all right, Dave?" And I said, "Well, it was okay." I said, "But the bloody car stopped." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we hit something underneath and it stopped." And he said, "Oh, you just press the button." "Press what button?" "Oh," he said, "there's a reset button under the battery." I said, "Really?" He said, yeah, you lift the bonnet. So I go around on this truck, lift the bonnet. I said to Ernie, "Get in the car, Ernie." And I put my hand underneath, and there's this button. And I pressed the button, and I said, "Try it, Ernie." And the bloody thing started. So I then got this thing off the wagon, told this driver I didn't want him, so I had to pay him something. And off we went. And we went back up, we went back up, I think it was Fez. And then from there, we were heading towards Tangiers. And we filled up, and we had to be up in Tangiers by about 3 o'clock to catch the boat. We had this huge hill to climb on the main road there for 4 or 5 miles. And halfway up, Ernie looked at me and said, "You got flames flashing around your window." And I looked at the window, and there was flames. Yeah. So I said, "Well, we can't stop here, Ernie." I said, "We'll have a proper traffic jam. We'll see if we can get to the top." We got to the top, and these bloody flames were coming up each side. And I said, "So we've been planning our exit now." So we had all the notes and that in the car. We had passports in the car. Anyway, we planned everything. Ernie had everything in his hand. And as soon as we got to the top, we opened the doors and just jumped straight out. And within, 15 minutes, the car were a burnt out shell. It just burnt itself. So I phoned up Mick again. Dave, everything's all right.
You know that button.
Yeah, you know that button. I said, "There's something wrong with the car." And he said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "It's completely burnt out." "Bloody hell," he said. I said, "I'm sorry, but it's completely finished." And with that, the shell stayed there for quite a long time before it disappeared altogether, but it was completely burnt out. But of course, when I came into Morocco, I actually came in with a car on my passport, and I went to the police, and they wouldn't give me any paperwork or anything for it. So of course, when I went to try to go out of Marrakesh, I think in the end I went out of Marrakesh. When I tried to go out of Marrakesh, I couldn't get out because they wouldn't let me out because I came in with a car. So the only way we could plan to get out of there was that because all my baggage had gone through, and Ernie got through. So Ernie sat down, and we noticed that about every 15 minutes, this guy on the customs, he'd go for a fag. So then we waited for 15 minutes, and the next time he actually went for a fag, I ran in, and I got on the plane and come home. I've never been back to Morocco since. I'm trying to go back now.
Oh, the ambassador to Morocco, if they're watching this, we're in trouble.
Anyway, that's one you lost.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So then shortly after that, you started to work with Stig again through David Sutton Motorsport.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
sadly, we lost David very, very recently there in the last 3 weeks or
yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. It was sad, really. I mean, David was a unique person. Uh, he, he was very funny. He was
Yeah,
very funny, but he was, he'd frustrate you to work with him because, well, you know yourself, he was very frustrating to work with because um, things would never go exactly the way you think it was going to go. But yeah, he gave a lot of people a lot of opportunities,
he did, yeah.
Harry and, and he gave you and Martin opportunity. Stig and Anna, I mean, Anna's dream was to double Stig, and he pulled that opportunity together, and he helped me. I mean, he gave me a living for a few years, and in the end, I mean, the good thing was really with David for me was that Anna liked me, and Anna used to like what I did, and even when they did events, they did this Pana Carrera American, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
in Mexico and go all the way up.
Uh-huh.
She wanted to do that, and there's a Swede over there in San Miguel who builds all these big muscle cars,
Yeah.
for that rally. So he built this Studebaker, 1956 Studebaker, and I don't know. I mean, it had 600 horsepower or something. It was like a NASCAR, and it go like bloody hell. It did, and but, we did some testing in a straight line, and I mean, you think the bloody thing was going to take off? I mean, it was incredible, but Anna didn't want to do the recce for it, so I did the recce with Stig and hand her over the pace notes.
Yeah.
He did the rally, and but I mean, she used to just trust what I did, and and it went well, and I enjoyed the time with David. I mean, it was a little bit difficult to get paid, but you did eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel sorry he's gone, but he did abuse his body sometimes. So
We did, yeah, a wee bit, yeah. But
yeah,
again, just the fun that you'd have. You imagine the dinner table. You got David Sutton, you got Stig Blomqvist, you got
oh,
you, and I just sat there and lapped all the stories up. A couple of glasses of wine, and it was just mighty fun. Just all I need to do is prompt you guys for one or two stories, and off we go. And that's the first course done. Then we go again. That's the main course. Yeah, it's just amazing, the stories in 2003.
I mean, I've got a few stories to tell, but when I look back, people like Stig and that, if you can get them with a few glasses of wine, I mean,
Yeah.
they got 10 times as many because they've been around so long.
Yeah, but and again, they can't if you put pressure on Stig and said tell some story, you wouldn't be able to do it. But literally, you get to the bar at the end of the recce, and I'd go and buy him a beer at the end of the recce, only for half an hour, and just like listen to some stories about Group B days, and short quattros,
Yeah,
and off he'd go, like, and he'd just sit there and listen for a while.
yeah.
But
It's different from the game. I mean, what you see today and what you could see then is two different things.
mhm.
I mean, World Championship today is fantastic, but it's nothing like it was in the 80s.
No.
No, nothing like it at all. And
Yeah.
and when you go like where you were in the Group N in 2000, I think that was the last of the good days.
Yeah.
Everybody got
Yeah,
serious.
you've got to say though, the way that we went about it, the way certainly the team was built around it. So with ProDrive involvement, we've got David Sutton Motorsport, we've got Anna Fontana, and every car and every rally we finished, in the production rally championship, and a lot of times in the podium for both cars. And of course, Stig at that stage, 57 years of age, you had to go some to beat him, like.
Oh, bloody hell, right. And you had a good guy, didn't you? Stevie Dunlop, wasn't it?
Stevie Dunlop was our engineer, and we had Dave Campion there from ProDrive. There's just a load of guys. And again, we're not going to name anybody because we'll forget people. But it's just an incredible year, and it's just a privilege to be a part of it and being involved in a team with legends like you guys. It's just, for me, it was great. It's just amazing times.
Yeah.
So, I'm just conscious that we're 2.5 hours in, so we need to wrap this up. I did tell you that the time would go fast. So you're still clearly involved in motorsport, and just talk us through Ross's involvement then, just for 5-10 minutes, to
Oh,
where you ended up with Chris and what Chris's programs. Whatever you want to tell us over the next couple of
well,
years, or how that came
let
about.
me take you back a little bit there because, I mean, Ross used to be a good goalkeeper. I mean, he had trials north for Bristol City,
Yeah,
and he loved his football. And I can always remember saying to Ross, you keep up to this football because I'll buy you bloody goalie gloves as long as you want me to buy them because that's going to be cheaper than motorsport. And he got to a point where I can't think of the year now, but it must have been about 2011 maybe. And he said to me, "Can can I come to the motor club with you tonight?" And I said, "Yeah, come to the motor club." And of course, then he said to me, "Can we do some of these 12 cars?" And I said, "Yes." So I used to have a Ford Fiesta at the time, and we used to go out and do the 12 cars. And we used to have some bloody we had rows that a father and son could get along. And I remember we were doing a Devices Motor Club 12 car one night, and we came to this crossroads, and Ross said, "Stop." And I thought he'd be feeling sick. And I said, "Well, what's up, mate?" He said, "Stop." He said, "I'm getting out." And I said, "Are you feel all right?" He said, "I've had enough of you." He said, "I will find my own way home." And I said, "Am I that bad?" He said, "You're bloody hopeless." He said, "You always blame me for everything." And of course, I did. I mean, I expected from him what really, in the last days of my professional co-driving, is what was expected of me to do everything right. And of course, he was learning.
yeah,
Of course, so I then calmed down, but I realised very quickly that he became a good navigator. So we bought a Rover. We bought a Rover 25, and we put an 1800 engine in and big brakes, and we went off and did some Southwestern Championship events. Me
hmm
driving, him navigating. Well, we got we picked up a fair few plots on it. We were all right, and we were okay until um, I think it was around about 2015 or something, and we were doing the Barbara Carter Rally, which was a Southwestern Championship rally down in Exeter, and we came down this hill, and Ross said it was 90 left over a ford and 90 right out, and I turned into it, and I thought I could see the road straight across, and I just drove, and the road went to my left, and I drove straight off the edge of the parapet into 5 foot of water. And when it was a bit more than 5 foot of water, the car filled up. Of course, we couldn't get out, and the bloody water was coming up. And oh, Ross were so super cool. He said to me, I said, we're going to die, Ross. He said, "No, we're not. Don't." He said, "Bloody silly." He said, "The doors will open in a minute." He said, "Just be quiet." He said, "And do what I do." And I said, "Okay." So the water was coming up to here, and he pushed the doors open. Of course, when it all became equal, he pushed the door open. I told you there were more. I've had accidents all my bloody life. And he pushed the door open, and he caught hold of my hand. He got out, and he caught hold of my hand. And this river now is flowing fast. It's really fast. He took hold of my hand because I can't swim. I can swim a little bit, but I couldn't swim in that. He took my hand and he swam across and he pulled me across, and he got me up onto the bank. And a bloke came down and was taking pictures, and he actually wrapped me all up and with a blanket and everything else. Ross then went back into it and picked up his wallet and all the things, the phones and everything. And we left the car there. I mean, and the car just filled up with water. Well, it was filled up anyway. So um, when all the cars had gone through, the sweeper car came, and then they had to get somebody because they had to lift the car out.
yeah.
So, I remember Dawn Barnard, her father was clerk of the course, but she came and she got the bloody car out for us. And but the funny thing about it was when we went back to the finish, of course, the car was just flooded everywhere. We had to rebuild the car. But anyway, when we got back to the finish, all the boys were so kind that I mean, we were drenched, and I didn't have any trousers on or nothing because I mean everything was just ruined. Um, you had guys coming up and say, "Yeah, here's my t-shirt, and here's my jumper, and here's my trousers, here's my shoes." So we got back home after somebody pulling us back with a trailer. We got back home, and we walked in home, and it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and Diane was in the kitchen, and she looked at us and she said, "You're a bit late. And everything go all right?" And I said, "Yeah, it's all right." And she looked at us and she said, "Neither of you got the clothes on that you left with. Where's your clothes?" So then I told her what happened. And but just after that, then Ross decided that maybe I shouldn't drive. Maybe I should navigate and he'd drive. And that's what we started to do. And then he weaned me off of that. And then he brought in other co-drivers. And, and I said to him, "You know what? It's not cool, is it, to have your dad co-driver?" And he said, "I need some younger blood." And because, there were times when I used to just breathe in because, he was young blood. So he used to go flat out.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I felt then, I'm too old for this. I must back off a little bit, and I did start to back off, and then he just looked up out of the blue one night, and he said to me, he said, "Can you teach me pace notes?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." So we had a 5 mile loop out in the lanes here, and I used to go out with him night after night, week after week. And we used to do this thing one way, the other way, maybe an odd junction or two. And we used to go on until he had it perfected. And there's a guy down in the southwest, Phil Harris, and he was entering Phil was good on the road rallies, and he was entering Whittock, and he took Ross with him. And I said to Phil afterwards, "What was he like on the notes, Phil?" He said he didn't put a foot wrong. He said, "He's good." He said he had come good, and Ross never looked back then. So he backed away. He was only doing a few road rallies then, and he did a few road rallies, but basically he started to concentrate. And it was rally day up at Castlecombe, and I bumped into Di Llewellyn, and Di was looking for a co-driver to go with Ben.
Yep.
And I said, "Get Ben to talk to Ross," and that's how that happened. So he started to go with Ben, and then Jamie Anderson picked up that Ross was about, and then he went with Jamie, and that's how it all went on. So yeah. So and then, well, of course, Chris was doing with he was doing the 2-wheel drive. He was in the 2-wheel drive in the Opel.
Opel Adam, yeah.
Yeah. And,
this is Chris Ingram we're talking about, yeah. He's currently co-driving, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Chris was with Edmondson, wasn't he?
Elliot Edmondson. Yeah,
he was with him, and there was some fallout. I don't know what it was about. I haven't got a clue, but there was some fallout between them, and that parted. And he was looking for a co-driver to go to do Rally Rome, I think it was. Somebody told him. I think it was Robert Reed told him that have a look at Ross, because by now Ross was in the academy.
Yes.
So they met up. Ross went to Manchester and met up with Chris, and they sort of knocked it off. And they went on then and did the rest of that championship, and Chris won it. And they've been together ever since, really. I mean, I think the only ones Ross goes with now is, he has done the odd rally like in between with Tom Llewellyn.
Yes.
And, and I'm sure there'll be others he'll do with Tom, just odd ones, because again, I think personally, I think Tom is a driver that if he can get the funding out of his dad, he can do all right.
Indeed.
He's a good driver. He's a nice lad. He's a very good driver. So,
but the program that Chris and Ross have is a 2-year program. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, now there's like a management company have been set up around them. It's a business. Mm-hmm. Sponsors been brought in and some investors as well. And there's funding there to do a 2-year program WRC3 this year and WRC2 then for next year. So yeah, it's a big break for both of them,
Yeah.
And really it's the first time that, well, they can say that, you know, there's some cash there for them that actually get paid to do it. And you know, it's not a great deal, but it's you know, it'd be the same as if they went out and got a job.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but also they've got the surety that they can take their time, build the speed again. You know, we
Yep.
saw that happening.
Yeah,
It's just nice to have that 2 years in your back pocket and be able to go at a pace and with, you know, with a team that's learning as well, clearly,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
cost effective way of doing it. And yeah, it sounds like a good plan. If you're involved in it,
Yeah, no, I
it
think
definitely is.
yeah, it's a good plan, and you know, I wish them all the luck now. And you know, my dedication now. I mean, you know, I'm chairman, as you said before. I'm
This is
chairman.
your dedication now.
Yeah, Diane and I go out and do a tour, and you know, we got this 1275 GT that I've got built. You know, I've built this up really, and we got another Mini in the garage because we got a race Mini there because Ross does a bit of racing now when he gets free time, and but you know, that car, you know, takes us out on the tours, and you know, we have a good crack. We meet a lot of people that, you know, I met from you know, you just meet the old crowd again, and yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun.
It's amazing. I just want to finish just showing you a couple of things here. Just go back into the photographs. So, this one clearly in '97 podium was fantastic. So that was the big event, and when F2 was at its prime, '97 in particular, all the manufacturers battling against each other. But also, this is what's happening in Ireland. Stephen Whitford, who you know really well, he was part of the Micro Challenge in 1996. So this is Pete Dowd's car, who was on earlier. He couldn't hear you properly. So this is the guys have got together and they're building these micros now. I think it's roughly about 15 grand. It's got a proper engine gearbox. So think about electricians, that type of thing, who want to go and have a proper rally car, but not the real junior formula, so something in between. So there's a load of these being built now. They're going to get together and do part of the Northern Ireland Rally Championship, probably 3 gravel, 3 tarmac rallies when they get back to it again. But just a real fun car for the go out and like-minded people that have got a few quid that just don't need to go absolute budget like the Targa rallies they have, and that's the one they've chosen, which is great. Isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's great, and you know, I love it now in the motor club because you know, not only do I see these people that you know, go out and have a go on the cheap, but you know, I'm involved with I organised 2 events, and well, 3 actually, because I organised an autocross as well. But you know, these guys, if you don't organise something for them, the sport would die. The sport cannot live on this high level. You know, you have to have this grassroots, and I, you know, I take a lot of pleasure organising this grassroots stuff, and you know, I get a lot of pleasure as well by helping the club hopefully become, you know, not only a good club for the clubmen, but also thinking about like it is a business, because you know, it has to be sustainable,
Yeah.
you know, to live, and you have to, you know, you need stuff as a club, you know, you need trailers and things like this to, you know, move equipment around. You need equipment, and so you have to treat it a little bit like a business, but you also have to put on enough events to make you know, make everybody happy. And I think we're doing that now, and you know, I'm a great buzz making it happen, really.
And you just, I think you just released some, or the entries open for a rally that's coming up, and it just sold out really quickly, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we had we're running a Targa rally this coming Saturday. Not this Saturday, the following weekend. And we opened the entries last week, and it filled 75 in 8 minutes, and we've got another 22 reserves on top of that, and that was all in 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, and marshals. I mean, I think we want 55 marshals, and I think we've got 122 signed on. I mean, normally,
What are you doing differently then? Why is there this level of interest? What if
I,
you like? We've got lots of club members and lots of people who organise rallies who watch this show. So what can you teach them?
I think we're, I mean, I organised the festival rally as well, which we ran back in February, but that was just purely and simply filled out. That filled itself with 110 entries, just over 5 minutes. And I think people know that we run good events. I think we give them exactly what we say is on the tin, and and I think COVID helps it as well at the moment because everybody's dying to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's the problem. Like I say, we've got over 100 marshals, and we don't need them. We don't need them all, but normally, you could use them, you could double them up. But of course, with COVID now,
Yeah.
where people have to wear masks and they have to stay 2 meters apart, you can't have loads of people around because how can you've got to police it. But it's great to be back. It's great to be able to put something on for the boys now, and and they all pay. It all pays back. You see, if they didn't want to come, they wouldn't come. And yeah, and I have a wife. The main thing is I have a wife that's as passionate about it all as I am.
Which is great. A big difference.
I'm totally lucky. And if she's not on her iPad watching what Ross is doing, she's beavering away there as an entry secretary. And but without that, I mean, we're both retired now. I mean, bloody hell. I mean, I was 72 last week, and we're retired, and but I'm busier now than I've been for a long time.
I know. It's
That's
mad.
all about.
I haven't even talked about Alcalock, the business that you set up, which was hugely successful. Just briefly, 5 minutes on that then to finish off.
Well, yeah, I mean, that all came about really when I was in America with Stig. And Stig said to me, "What are you going to do now? You're coming out of motorsport." And I said, "Well, I want to start up a little business, but I'm not quite sure." I said, "But I want to do something in like road safety and that." And he said, "Well, what are you interested in?" And I said, "I'm interested in these breathalyzers that you've got in Sweden." And he put his hand in a bag and said, "What, one of these?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "What are you doing with that?" He said, "Oh, I got shares in a company with it." And so he said, "Take it and have a look." And Simon, so I go back to Simon now because Simon and I together.
Mm-hmm.
We started the business, and I think after about 9 months, I was thinking about giving it all up because everybody was interested, but nobody wanted to buy it.
I remember that conversation. We had conversations about the same time because we were chatting back and forward about ideas.
Yeah, well, they didn't want to buy it, and one of the companies I went to was National Express, and they had an accident on Watford Services, or Hemel Hempstead, I think. Hemel Hempstead. And the coach came off the motorway up the slip road to the services, tipped over and injured a load of people. And they found the driver was drunk. Well, within 48 hours, they had me up in Birmingham saying, "Right, we want your kit." So at the time, of course, even like today, National Express only own less than 100 coaches. All the rest is farmed out, to like a franchise.
Stagecoach and people like that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I fitted up the 80 odd coaches with it, and they loved it. And within the 12 months, they just phoned up and said, "Right, we've got X number, I forget how many it was now at the time, but there was about 400 or 500 coaches they had." They said, "Can you do a rollout?" And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And so from there, it's like everything, if you've got a big company buying from you, other people will buy as well.
Yeah.
And, I had a team of engineers on, which was operated as a third party from Birmingham. They were doing all the installations, so I wouldn't employ them. We had a part-time accountant, Diane and myself, and we had a full-time guy doing calibrations and repairs, and that's how we went from nothing up to basically turning over just about £1 million a year with it.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, with no staff, and it got to a point when I got this Meniere's disease. In the first year I had it, I was in a bit of a bad state, and Diane said, "Well, you're past your retirement age. Why don't you start thinking about giving it up?" And I went and seen somebody and said, "Look, I could sell the business at the right price, and it was the right time to sell it." And well, within a year, we had sold it.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I'm pleased I did now, because now COVID's here.
Of course.
It would have destroyed us, and but yeah, so that's what we did.
I have a funny story to tell you about that, because a good friend of mine works on the Channel Tunnel, so he drives a bus to collect the truckers when they park their truck to take them to the car over there, and of course, one of the truckers washed his teeth when he got into. So the whole concept of this is, if you smell of alcohol, the truck won't start. Now, it might not have been an alcoholic one, but it was that type of thing.
It was that one, yeah.
Yeah. So of course the truck won't start. So they can't embark onto the tunnel. So the train is sat there and they can't unload it because this truck won't start. So they ended up, one of his colleagues who drives the bus, had to get in and drive the truck off, so they get the train disembarked and get everybody off it. But I was explaining to him, we were chatting the other day, and I was telling him I was having you on, and he's a big bus man, and he'd heard about them. He says, "You better tell him this story." So that's Big Dave's story about getting the truck off.
I mean, I really believed in it, and it did save people's lives without question. I know, and with the amount of people that we had as a failure from different companies everywhere, even private users. I mean, it was a good piece of equipment which we developed, and I just feel we used to spend a lot of time lobbying with the government as well, and trying to get legislation to bring the drink drive level down, but it's still the same today, and I still believe that I know every day there's drivers running around with alcohol, and sometimes quite a lot. And
I know. So, especially
So now we move on to a retirement age now.
Now you're retirement, and you've never been busier, as you said earlier. So both of you.
Yeah.
Right, who else is watching? So great show. Thanks, Noel. Malcolm Thompson reckons fantastic stories, great listening. Robin Luke says, "No, great show, great stories from Dave." Yeah, of course there are. Most events are subscribed in the UK at the present, which is great. If we've got a young database as well, young kids coming into the sport, that's exactly what we need, and it's great to see, great to hear.
Yeah.
Listen, it's been fantastic. Thanks very much for giving me your time. I've had a ball, almost 3 hours, 2 minutes off 3 hours. I told you, it's so hard to keep it under when you sit listening and just think of all the different areas and the different types of your life. It's been great. Folks, you know where to go if you want to watch any of these shows. So stagesbystage.com/blog for any of the live shows, any of the podcasts. They're all there on the blog. Depending on what you want. If you want to be educated in the learning part of it, then the podcasts are for you. If you want to hear some great rally stories like you have tonight with Dave, then the video shows are probably where you should start first. That's it, folks. We'll catch up with you next Friday night. So we'll keep going for the Friday nights for another little while. So thanks very much. We'll catch up soon.